Hey there, Chief Meteorologist Matt Lopon. Looking at some of the pictures behind the scenes here at the television studio. But one of the things we're concentrating on here is the potential for some active weather, including this one thunderstorm that we have here in Calhoun County that's showing a little bit of rotation in it. Today, we are not expected to have significant tornadoes, things of that nature. But as we talked about in some of our updates earlier on, it's not impossible to perhaps get one brief rotating thunderstorm. That's what this certainly looks like it is trying to do right now, as we get what we call a shear marker here on Mississippi Live Weather Radar, indicating some rotation. We're not convinced that shear is making it all the way to the ground, but it's just something that, I mean, when you have a 24-hour channel, you have the ability to hop on, so I'd rather hop on too early than too late. Let's talk about where we're looking at this here for a second. And so looking at the wind mode on Mississippi Live Weather Radar, our little shear marker is slightly behind. More than anything, it's something that gets our attention in this situation. So I'm going to pull it off here for a second. I do have a pretty good little enhancement there indicating some strong winds on this just south of Calhoun City. This indicating maybe as high as 70-mile-per-hour winds. That'd be the straight line winds, storm relative winds. Not quite as impressive, but there's definitely some what we call gate-to-gate shear there, or pixel-to-pixel rotation. Not sure that extends all the way to the ground, but that's what, 40, 50, 55-ish, about 50 to 55 mile per hour of rotation just in that one spot there south of Calhoun City that we are watching. So bring it back here, the precipitation mode on Mississippi Live Weather Radar. This is also what we sometimes refer to as a bounded weak echo region, kind of an area there where, you know, we have the spot in the middle. And so if you give me a moment to kind of get my finger at exactly the right spot, I'm going to look at this a couple of different ways. We'll look at this using our severe threats, which again says, I think maybe some hail and strong winds with this. But also when we again look at the wind potential there, that's a little bit behind. Let's see if that might be a new frame in here just in the last moment. Let's go back a frame. See if our spot's pretty similar there. So there's our latest frame. So there's where we have the spot with our greatest rotation back in the precipitation mode there. And that's kind of right in the middle where we would expect it. So certainly watching this rotation kind of picking up a little bit more here south of Calhoun City. Our shear marker hasn't updated, so I'm going to leave that off for a moment. Okay, all that to say, how should we approach this? I would say that it's possible that this could at some point maybe produce some damaging wind gusts. Not impossible we could have something more significant, including the potential for this to try to produce its rotation, and maybe if everything goes really, really wrong on this, try to produce a tornado. So kind of in the early heads up stage here. And again, we don't want to alarm anybody, but we also, of course, want to just, you know, look at this in the most reasonable way possible. And so I would be thinking about getting closer to my safe place southeast of Calhoun City here. Again, these are what we call low top supercells, meaning more likely than not, they're not going to produce tornadoes. But the fact I have a pretty decent rotation signature on here, I just think is something that we should probably take seriously and just make sure we're in the best possible location possible for that. So that means a small windowless room, place where we could wrap up in blankets, pillows if that becomes necessary, and stay there until we can give you the all clear. Again, I know we got some folks kind of joining us on Facebook here on the Mississippi Live Weather app as well. So we're just, you know, thinking that this is probably something here east of Calhoun City I would recommend is getting you to a safer location just in case. And hopefully, hey, listen, hopefully we're overdoing this just a little bit. Certainly a possibility, but certainly watching that fairly closely here. So let's look at a couple things on this for a moment. First off, we're going to look at the wind, as we talked about a moment ago there. I'll also look at the debris on this. I want to be clear that there's probable that we're going to get something that shows up right there, what we call the weak echo region, because there's less to be detected there. So yeah, when I see that, I'm not super concerned with that at this point here, because while I do have, again, my winds kind of changing there, I also don't necessarily have the precipitation high enough there to, I think, qualify. So, you know, if we're going to watch this closely, again, I think this is the kind of day where we're more likely to see something tricky that looks worse than it actually is, if that makes sense. So regardless, let's get a storm track on. Let's get some speeds on this. Let's make sure this is in pretty good shape. I'm going to have our meteorologist Gabe Maynard using the radar scope behind the scenes. Double check my speed on this if you can, and I'll bring you on here in just a moment as we're looking ahead. So again, we have the information about safe places on there, you know, and one of the things, again, I think that we're also doing ahead of this is just, you know, making sure we're prepared in case we get a couple of warnings, which remains a possibility. Expect most of us probably were not talking about severe weather out of this, but one or two warnings, not an impossibility. So watching this closely there, give me a moment. What is this? Okay, so that I'm sorry, that National Weather Service had something come through our chat back and forth. It does not look like that is a current alert there for one of the radar sites. Excuse me, one of the reporting stations. Sorry, that's something I'd never seen before there. Kind of throwing me off a little bit. Okay, I'm going to bring Gabe in here for a second. And Gabe, just kind of looking at this, you have speed on that?
I would say 35 miles an hour, may go a little bit above that at 40 just to be on the safe side of things and give folks a little bit more of a heads up. But this has been that speedy system that we've been talking about since yesterday. And yeah, 35, 40 miles an hour kind of lines up with how the system has progressed throughout all of our afternoon.
Okay. So again, this is one of those that's going to look a little worse on radar. And I'll be honest, looked a little worse a couple minutes ago. We get some of these little shear markers here. They are something that you didn't catch with us at the WTVA station, excuse me, at the TV station, that frankly we didn't have there. That's kind of sometimes an early heads up, hey, something's going on. There's definitely some rotation on that. But again, in these low top supercells, it's going to kick out a little quicker. So we figured rather than wait for something to be more confirmable, let's come on here a little bit quicker. I'll have you check the chat with the North Mississippi Storm Chasers. Gabe, we'll talk more with you about that here in just a minute as you kind of give us an update on what's going on there. Though I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Lawpond, you're watching Mississippi Live. Weather current time is now 3:58 p.m. We were planning on doing a 4 o'clock cut-in either way just to kind of check on what's going on out there. We do have this one thunderstorm that does have some rotation showing up with it. We checked the wind mode here on Mississippi Live Weather Radar. It was partially the wind and partially rotation. What I want to do is you can see some times there on your screen. I'm going to leave those on the screen as I take this back a few scans because I want to show you just how bright it's almost kind of like a bright white sort of green that we had with that there as it kind of progressed toward the north and east. And so that one of the things kind of caught my interest because if you just look at what the wind is estimated on that, and again, this is above the surface a pretty decent way, still estimating that wind about 61 miles an hour, but we're also looking at rotation about 3,000 feet up. So, more than half a mile up. And that's always one of the challenges when we're interrogating these thunderstorms out here for locations such as Calhoun County, is where you're trying to get an idea what it's capable of. And that remains a bit of a question. As I kind of clear everything off there for a moment, again, we do have some of that rotation. We do show a little bit of that rotation on that there. Does not look to be, super duper strong on our severe threats. Again, it is saying that there's a little bit of wind shear that is showing up on that as well. Again, that's kind of interpolated it back a couple of scans. Not as impressive as, some other systems that we have seen. Certainly we haven't had it much recently. So that's what's kind of triggering this little circle that you see next to me there. As we kind of clear this off and bring it back to the typical version of Mississippi Live Weather Radar, there are some other thunderstorms that we are tracking and watching out there as well. And, these are mostly, for the most part, I'd say well below severe limits on the rest of these storms. As I bring Gabe back in here for a second with me, Gabe, does not look like the storms up north are nearly as strong, right?
No, and if you look at dew points, that tells the complete story. The difference that we're seeing, low to mid 60s south of 82, north of there, some low 60s popping up, but it's really in that upper 50 range, and that's not what we'd correlate with severe weather, and so that's why the best threat continues to remain further south, and that's why that shear vector right there in Calhoun County is continuing to show up. I do want to note that there is some wind strengthening up there northeast of Vardaman, so paying attention to that area as well, but it's basically this cell right here in Calhoun County and Chickasaw County that's continuing to build as we head further east. But you look, and one of the best ways to tell this is with lightning as well, and only a couple of strikes up there in New Albany, and that's our best looking cell heading into the 4 o'clock hour. So as that continues to move its way across, winds aren't overly impressive, a decent output of rainfall, but that's really our best threat is just some of that heavy rainfall. Getting a look out of, I believe that will be Pontotoc looking, I think it's still looking west, maybe getting a little bit more of a look towards the north. You can see those dark clouds moving over the top. Again, a speedy system at about 35 miles an hour. But the big thing right there, that's going to be your winds coming out of the south, moving that moisture in. And it's definitely trying. Those southerly gusts definitely playing a part in that forecast. But dew points, 59 degrees, it's not exactly a concerning number. It's whenever we start getting into the 60s and especially those mid 60s that we're getting around the Golden Triangle and for folks in Winston and Attala and Noxubee County, Matt, that's really the focal point heading into this late afternoon, early evening time frame. But very fortunate sight to see upper 50s there, Pontotoc, for folks up north.
Absolutely, you're right. That's one of the things kind of helping us out a little bit, and hopefully something that continues. Appreciate our meteorologist, Gabe Maynard. That Pontotoc camera looking toward the southwest. Appreciate the good folks there at North Mississippi Storm Chasers for partnering with us here on Mississippi Live Weather and trying to get a shot on some of these storms. National Weather Service has what's called a special weather statement out on this. It's kind of a hey, we're watching this sort of situation. I don't know that we're going to have a great shot. I'm going to see if I'll click fly to there as we kind of adjust the camera just a little bit. So that would be looking into the storm. We got to look through too much rainfall, I think, to get a really good angle on it looking down that direction, thankfully. So I'd say most indications at this point here, again, there's some rotation. It is not as strong as it was even a few minutes ago, trend that hopefully does continue. I'm going to see if we can, as we clear that off there for a moment and bring it back to Mississippi Live Weather Radar. We'll slide southward again where we had that little circle. That's what we call a shear marker there. There were a couple of scans. It looked really interesting. And I would say, thankfully, it looks a lot less interesting now than it did there. I'll be honest, would always prefer come on here, talk about this too early as opposed to ever do it too late. See, right here, when it kicks out this first scan, you can start to see sort of that kind of hook sort of shape that we associate it with, severe thunderstorm. That's definitely showing up at that point there. And then it kind of diminishes a little bit after that. So let's kind of take it forward. Not quite as impressive. We have that bounded weak echo region, still at least some spin with that there showing up. So it's not nothing. But luckily, it's not as significant as it was just a little bit ago. So Vardaman, watching this for you. Let's kind of poke and prod this a little bit. Again, this rotation is a lot broader. So this is our storm relative rotation, as we would refer to it. This is our shear rate here, which kind of allows us to see just how much rotation something could have. Let's go ahead. I'm going to make this a very slow sort of loop. Make it a 1 minute loop on this here. So give me a moment as that comes in so we can get a good idea of kind of what we're looking at. And behind the scenes, I've got to change something here to make sure I have as low a latency as possible on the view I'm looking at. So give me just a moment to do that. Okay, so this is a 1 hour loop. I'm going to step to this side so I can stay out of the way there. And so here it comes, as you can see right there, south of Calhoun City, getting a little bit more organized at that point there. Now a little bit more of this red sort of showing up as this kind of takes a spin. So at least on this particular product, it still has a decent amount showing up on the latest there. So that's a little more impressive than it was, despite the fact that at that point there, I think we're still looking 3,100, almost 3,200 feet above the surface on that. So looking at the severe threat, still has a little bit where you see kind of the pink there. But if we kind of look at the hail potential on this, you'll notice there has not been much. It's non-zero on this as well. But again, hail, not a particularly impressive threat on this. So possible, but I would definitely not say likely based on where we've looked at there. So if you're looking at Vardaman or out toward Houston or Parkersburg, I appreciate True Shield Roofing for helping us on this hail threat product, the new thing that for us to show here on Mississippi Live Weather. Bring back the rainfall mode on Mississippi Live Weather Radar. Again, watching some of those showers, again, moving closer to Houston and Parkersburg. I'll be honest, this does not look nearly as healthy as it did a few minutes ago on here, but we'll get a new track on this. Nonetheless, this should get us all the way through Okolona to close to about 40 miles per hour if it continues that speed. We show Houston there at about 423, Parkersburg 430, Van Vliet 435, Jolly 442, Okolona 448. When or if we were dealing with the potential for this to be upgraded, if this were to be upgraded for tornado warning, some of the things that would be looked for on that would be if we had Doppler radar rotation that looked like it could develop into a tornado very soon. Now we have the rotation. Is there enough that it could be very soon? That's really the question in this situation, right? That's what we're working out on this here. The rotation was a lot stronger, in my opinion, a little bit ago. Some of our products here still defending it as a fairly decent. So that's what we're watching. So Houston 423 current time 406. I would be at least in a safer location there, but I can tell you for sure, we do not have debris. We do not have a tornado that's been spotted. Neither of those things are the case at this point. Hopefully a trend that continues on this as well. I'm checking with the North Mississippi Storm Chasers. I'm going to bring Gabe back in here. He's been monitoring our chat back and forth with them. Any updates from the Chasers at this time?
Again, nothing confirmed. Adrian is working his way over there, so hopefully getting a look at that. I think in the next 10 to 15 minutes, potentially getting a look there in the sky if this does hold together. But just stay safe out there. That's what we encourage to them. And Yeah, just they're going to hopefully get us a view of that here in the next few minutes. I was checking the chat with the National Weather Service as well. Nothing of note that they're talking about, not really talking about that tornadic threat with this storm, so they don't seem as concerned with it, but definitely something to keep eyes
Well,
on.
I'm gonna be crystal clear. I'm a lot less concerned when we cut in, right?
For sure,
Like
for sure.
this is nowhere near as impressive because there were two things that really got my attention at that point. We had some rotation there, and it was in the weak echo region, but we had this kind of flare up where it was clearly stacking stronger and stronger down there southwest of Calhoun City, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you had that one spot there where if we kind of just say, hey, what does the radar say that is? It says the straight line winds, at least at that height there, were 50, 60 miles per hour. Okay, but then we were able to get one where it then comes up and it's closer to 70 miles per hour. I'm like, that's enough for us to do a little cut in here just to make sure we're in better shape. But that has weakened. Even if you look at the just rotation mode, clearly we have some rotation. Oh man, if I stay out of the way, apologize. Let's get out of the way of this. Clearly we had some rotation there, right? I mean, no question. Green plus red. We can teach the kids that pretty easily. We still have the green plus red, but you'll notice it's not really touching. So this has weakened a lot. So to be clear, the only reason I think we're still on this is because we got on this. And so we'll have to make a judgment call here in a few minutes if we're going to stay on this a whole lot longer. So yeah, check with the storm chasers. If Adrian does get a camera up and going, let me know about that. Yeah, and we'll figure that out there.
Well, one
Gabe,
thing to note as well, I looked up, because one of the things that we do during coverage is check social media to see if there's any posts or anything like that, or anything that's been submitted through the Mississippi Live weather app. No reports there either. And so this is a little bit more reassuring, especially as you did have that tighter couplet, but also had those strong straight line winds, that there hasn't been any damage reports. So we're going to keep eyes behind the scenes. And for our folks in Calhoun County that may have experienced some of those strong winds and there was any damage that occurred, please forward that to us through the Mississippi Live weather app, and we will forward that to the National Weather Service to kind of help them issue these warnings moving forward. And so that kind of helps them out, but also just keeps folks informed as to what's headed their way.
Absolutely. And I would say, it's probably more the exception to the rule to see damage in this case, but not an impossibility. These are what we call low-topped supercells, so it's more likely than not they will not produce damage. Thank you, Gabe. I appreciate that. Current time is coming in, 4:09, almost 4:10 here. You're watching Mississippi Live Weather app as we are tracking the potential for maybe some brief wind damage. I'll be honest, here in the Room Durham Weather Center, we've talked about a couple times today the potential for rotating thunderstorms. This is not a tornado setup. This is one of those scenarios where it's not impossible something happens, but this is not a tornado setup for us. The moisture values are just not quite high enough. Now, they are better than some of the models had them. But we look at that dew point there, that measure of moisture is based on the same scale as the temperature. When this number's in the 70s or at least mid to upper 60s, we have a better chance. We have some mid 60s out there, but most of North Mississippi is in the lower 60s. We find ourselves in a scenario here where the strongest winds aloft are way up to the north of us, right? Up here, up into Tennessee locations north, and the greatest amount of moisture is down here closer to the coast. And so there's a spot in the middle where maybe we get a little bit of an overlap, but that remains a bit of a question there. So I'm hoping that's the case, that we don't, but that's one thing at least working in our favor. As we bring this in here a little bit closer on Mississippi Live Weather Radar and show kind of the general portion of the region, this broken line of storms, again, not a ton of lightning strikes with it. As you can see there, if I move out of the way, you can see about 100 lightning strikes over the course of the last, 15, 20 minutes or so. So not a ton of lightning out of these. Let's go back a couple of scans and check specifically that lightning. I'll try to keep my head out of the way for just a moment so everybody can see everything. See how the lightning strikes pretty similar over the last, 20, 30 minutes. So we did get kind of an uptick in lightning. We do not expect to have a ton of lightning with these, but most indications are things are looking okay at the moment. So definitely watching out for y'all just to make sure. See Danny watching there from Houston, and folks wanting to know which way the storms are headed. All these storms are moving eastward, speed on them close to about 40 miles per hour, 35 to 40 miles per hour. Let's track the whole line here for a moment. I'm going to track the heavier parts. The rain will start before this, but I'm just tracking kind of the heavier parts of this line at about 40 miles per hour. So 35, 40 miles per hour. Gives you kind of some times there. If you're willing to stick with me for a second, I'll go ahead and try to cycle through some of those times. So let's see here. Let's make this a 70-mile track. So I'll take that all the way into the Alabama state line there. So again, we show, we're going to have to come here to slightly bigger spots for just a moment. There we go. So Ackerman, we're looking 414, so pretty much over top of you at this point, with, again, some of those showers and storms well below severe limits for you. Corinth, we're looking 415. I'd say it's unlikely for you in Corinth that these go all the way to severe levels, but certainly some heavy rainfall with that. It's really just this one up there approaching locations around Thorne and Houston. We'll get in close on that, get a new evaluation on it here in a moment. But you can generally see, again, some of those times there as this works its way eastward, picking out a few there. Tupelo about 425 or so, Boonville 427, Guntown 430, Burnsville about 438 as well, Starkville about that time, Louisville 438, Knox Pater about 445, Iuka 450, Fulton 451. If you give me a minute, I'm going to try to get that closer to, we show, there we are, Tishmingo about 458. We'll select that as the first city. There we go, and a whole new set of cities kind of on that list there, getting closer to Belmont, about 507. Oh, where are we at? Macon, about 521 for you. Shuglock, 530, and working its way into Alabama. You can see Florence there, close to about 530 or so. One of the things I find interesting that we'll look at here in a minute is the line of storms kind of behind this as well. As we look at kind of our mosaic here, some of these thunderstorms have been a little heavier back behind this as well. But over the last little bit, they have not looked quite as impressive last hour versus where they did. A lot more red about an hour ago versus where we have them right now. I'm going to use another exclusive thing we have here on Mississippi Live Weather, if you'll stick with me for a second. We do have the ability to use kind of a futurecast sort of radar here as well, so our future radar. Just another way to kind of give you kind of a 2-hour look. It's similar to what you have on the app, but a little bit different here. Again, showing those storms, again, advancing northeastward. So you can see a position there where we have them in and around northwestern Chickasaw County. Again, they're closer to southern Lee County, say about 4:50 to 5 o'clock. We show closer to Plantersville, south part of Tupelo on that storm. And then working its way up there north of Fulton, 5:30 or so. And then you notice most of this line, less impressive. I think it probably could strengthen a little more in what we see there, but we're not all completely done until this last part of the front moves through back to the north and west. Okay, bring it back in the Mississippi Live Weather Radar, and I do want to look closer at that storm there in and around Chickasaw County in particular. This is easily our strongest storm of the day to this point here. And if I make sure that we have, again, the rotation tracks, what we call shear trackers on there, shear markers, that's the circles that you will see on here from time to time. See how we had those definitely plainly displayed just a little bit ago south of Calhoun City, and now close to the Hall community where that same location is, but not depicted on the latest scans here. Part of the reason for that, we're looking closer to the surface, so we have a better idea. Now we're about 2,500 feet from the surface, and that is considerably lower than where we were tracking that just a moment ago. So we have better and better data with every moment this moves eastward. And with that better data, while we still show some broad rotation, you'll notice a difference in class between what we were looking at here a moment ago in Calhoun County and what we see now, right? So you go back in time here, you can see how much brighter it was there. Now, part of it is you see that shift right there. I don't know if you can tell. But there's a slight change in the angle weather service is looking at this there. So still some broad rotation near Hall and Houston, approaching Houston there. But this is a lot weaker than it was a little bit ago. We're going to look at our camera here with the North Mississippi Storm Chasers out of Amory toward this. They have a camera looking generally in this direction here, kind of toward the west, looking way there. So what we got, we have some low clouds in advance here. And again, I appreciate the North Mississippi Storm Chasers for allowing us to see this. Some of the lower level clouds kind of obscuring the best possible view we had of that. I'm curious to see if either West Point or Aberdeen have a better view as well. Aberdeen does not look like we have a great view on that at the moment. Check our camera there in West Point. Again, all these kind of looking back a little ways there. Yeah, West Point still kind of looking back toward the west, too far away to really get a good angle. I'm going to see if Maben, I do have to kind of finagle some things. Gabe, on a sheet of paper there, I need you to write back at the station Maben. I need to tweak the Maben camera. Might as well just put cams at the top. Maben, I also need to come back and I need to make sure Pontotoc doesn't auto-advance on the non-map version. We pull that in here. Okay, so let's get Maben on here. Maybe give me a moment. Pull that up. Okay, so this is our camera there in Maben. Again, looking back toward the west. So I do again see kind of some low-hanging clouds. That's mainly precipitation there, but I don't see anything on this camera that immediately, garners a ton of interest and concern as looking looking back toward the north and west. Yeah, there are some dangly sort of things showing up on there. I wonder if it could let me zoom that in. Now, because of the way I'm doing this, I can't zoom that in, at least without getting into the actual camera itself. But I would say, again, some low-hanging stuff, nothing that's overly concerning looking at that camera there in Maben. Again, appreciate the good folks at North Mississippi Storm Chasers for pairing up with us here on Mississippi Live Weather to kind of track some of these storms. So give you a perspective where we're looking. So from Maben, we'd be looking, actually, I need to make sure we're looking the correct direction. So Maben is right there. We're going to be looking through these showers there. We're not going to get a good look at it. West Point, yeah, we're looking through that. Aberdeen, yeah, it looks like Amory is going to be our best chance there. Let's check Tupelo, actually, just in case, to get some eyes on it, perhaps looking down from Tupelo. We're going to be looking through the rain. I do not anticipate we're going to have a good look at this. Yeah, just kind of looking back through the showers there as well. And appreciate the good folks at Mitchell Cunningham Bowling for sponsoring our camera. I appreciate all the folks who sponsor us here on Mississippi Live Weather, but those that are kind of stepping out in faith with us that have been with us since the beginning, we appreciate Mitchell Cunningham Bowling, one of our most recent sponsors, sponsoring the cameras. A lot of those have opportunities to show up in severe weather coverage, as you can see here as well. But yeah, that one, again, looking from the south side of Tupelo up here, we're looking through enough rainfall. It really is probably going to be Amory or maybe Smithville that has our best angles on that. Is bringing in close here to Houston. Again, kind of looking at the latest here. We're just kind of poking and prodding this a little bit to make sure it's going to continue the weakening phase. I still have, again, some weak rotation showing up on this. This would be what we call a low-topped supercell, meaning it's a rotating storm, but it's not a tall one. Why does that matter? Well, the taller a thunderstorm is, the stronger winds aloft it can tap into. Well, this one here has the tops that are up around 40,000 feet. That's respectable, but that's not incredible. Change this to 1 hour loop. We'll make this loop here for a second. That's about as tall as this has been. As you can see, it's touched 40,000 feet a couple of times there. Wonder if we'd have a better shot looking at this 3D. Give me a moment, let's try that. Let's clear off all of that. Look three-dimensional on this. So yeah, this does a better job maybe of telling it the fact that you have, hold on, let's bring it back in there. We kind of have this, the taller part where we have the strongest winds aloft kind of focusing up to, it's kind of on the north side up there. So we're looking more on the south side here. This would be the spot where we have the rotation. I just don't see a lot there to be super concerning at the moment. So hopefully that continues to be the case, but that's largely, I think a good sign, all things considered. Bring it back to 2D mode on Mississippi Live Weather Radar. I might actually leave it on the official 3D for just a second here. Let's see here. And I do want to check and see if the chasers are up. I'm going to bring Gabe in here for a second. Gabe, have we heard anything from the North Mississippi Storm Chasers?
Actually, what I was texting about right now, getting a little bit more on Adrian's positioning, but we'll touch base with him and get back to me in like 2 minutes, and I should have an answer.
Okay. Do they have a stream up?
They should.
So Adrian has a stream up.
Let me get on there. It looks like he is up. It is pulled up on the, well, actually I can pull it up on the monitor behind me.
If you pull that up on the BAM, we can pull it up like that. Or we pull it up on that BAM computer. Is that? I'm gonna take the chance there. There you are.
It certainly is mean.
Okay, so there we go. So that's the North Mississippi Storm Chaser. I'll bring Gabe's microphone on there. I'm gonna take Adrian's down here for a moment. Gabe, do we know the location?
He's driving through Houston right now.
Okay, so he's got a good eye on it. So after all this, that's probably the best one we have at this point here. So what I'm going to see if I can do is if I'm able to potentially sort of double box that. I'm going to send it to you on the BAM for a second, and then with that behind you, and I'm going to fix some stuff.
Yeah, so just making sure, James with the North Mississippi Storm Chasers confirming that it is Houston. He is driving west through the Houston area. As you can see, that light rainfall on the leading edge already starting to come down. But we do have that shelf as well that you're getting a view of right there in the distance. That's that leading edge of those storms that are building on through. Of course, the Houston storm, or at least the storm that's moving into Houston, has been the most impressive one so far this afternoon. And as we continue into that late afternoon time frame, hopefully this gets, there we go. Okay, pulling into the Dollar General, so probably going to hold up there as the storm continues to work its way from west to east. And so again, folks there in Chickasaw County, if you have not gotten the storm just yet, again, it is building into the area, not going to be those extreme lightning producers, but it's going to be one that we're watching for the most severe potential. Earlier on, it did have that rotation, hence why we came on a little bit early to talk to you guys about that, but fortunately has not built anymore from there. It's actually weakened just a bit since that time frame. So we're continuing to assess that storm, and again, appreciate the North Mississippi Storm Chasers and of course Adrian with the North Mississippi Storm Chasers for providing us this live look in over there, and love getting to work with them, and grateful that they get to partner with us on days like today where we can kind of both work together to keep you guys informed. I do want to note that earlier on we did have that strong wind. Still haven't heard any reports so far, so that's a very reassuring sign. Hopefully that means this was just a heavy rain producer, maybe a little bit of lightning producer, but that was really it. And that's how we continue to confirm things. But if you do have anything, forward that to us here on the Mississippi Live Weather app.
Okay, I'm going to double box our radar here with North Mississippi Storm Chasers. And so this is Adrian with the North Mississippi Storm Chasers in the Houston area, kind of getting in position. So I'm going to leave his video up here at the same time. Gabe, I'm going to move yours on. I'm going to leave your audio on as well. I'm going to, if you will mute your microphone, he's going to go in and out because of some cell phone service out there. That kind of happens from time to time. But if you have additional information, go ahead and pop your mic back up. So
I do want to say, we've been tracking this storm. Might want to jump further south towards Attala and Winston County. Tornado possible on that warning down there. A little bit of a tightening on that rotation, one that I've been looking at behind the scenes as we've tracked this main cell up a little bit north.
Okay, so this is what Gabe was mentioning a minute ago here. New severe thunderstorm warning issued just within the last couple of moments with the tag tornado possible from the folks there at the National Weather Service. So what are we dealing with? So we're going to change the radar site here. We're going to go down to the Jackson radar site, which should have a closer look at exactly what this is dealing with. And Jackson is choosing, again, National Weather Service offices sometimes choose to handle these in slightly different ways. You're looking at Houston on the right there. You're looking at Kosciuszko on the left, and I think we're going to bring it back here to the Kosciuszko shot here in just a moment from the folks there at North Mississippi Storm Chasers, as we bring up their camera down there in Kosciuszko at this time. See if we pop that up. Giving you an idea, again, Kosciuszko kind of back in it. This kind of looking, I believe, more in a southwesterly sort of direction. The reason I'm looking at this partially is just to kind of get a check there on the dew point. Measure of moisture coming in 63. So a decent amount of moisture out there versus farther north. Still somewhat of a limiting factor. So while I think we are going to see these rotating storms from time to time, I think it's most likely that we end up seeing the potential more for, say, damaging wind gusts than anything else. Okay, so I think the best place to probably put this, probably park this right over there so you can see the severe thunderstorm warning. So I'm going to bring Adrian down. Gabe, I'll have you watch the, well, I say that. We're going to come back to that storm in a second. Okay, let's bring this back over here to Mississippi Live Weather Radar. And as we do that, I'm going to get a storm track on this, because as we're looking at this storm down here, again, we have some rotation, and we are looking still fairly high on this, about 4,000 feet up there. And kind of looking at the very latest on this, I still do show some decent rotation there. Let's look at the shear rate. We do have our little shear tracker, our markers, our circles should be showing up on that there. So if you're ahead of this, let's make sure we're at least getting to a safer sort of location. I'm going to pop up Again, why this is issued here for a second. Again, Doppler radar has detected rotation that could develop into a tornado. So the National Weather Service is saying, hey, just out of an abundance of caution, let's make sure we are in the safest possible location there, kind of looking ahead of this. Again, this is a severe thunderstorm warning with the tag rotation possible on that. So time there, again, Kerr, we're looking at 441 for you, High Point 453, McMillan 456, Gum Springs at 503, Evergreen 505, Webster 508, Mill Creek at 510. So I would recommend, I think it's reasonable that if you're ahead of this in some of those spots that we do get to a safer location. Again, tornadoes, I would not say are likely, but they're not impossible. I would say it's unlikely that we see tornadoes out of this, but weird things happen from time to time. So let's just make sure we're in our safest possible location here. And so that's what we are tracking there in Itala County, moving to Winston County. Yep, I need to clear off that track, because what I didn't do is, while I think I had the angle correct on that, I want to make sure that, you know, we include in the track here, as we go back to the rotation mode for a second, I want to make sure that we include Louisville. And I know that folks in Louisville are very sensitive to weather, as you should be, considering history. But I just want to get you a time there, because I know that folks are like, well, we're that close. Let's just get you the time. Louisville, we've been looking at that for you by about 4:59 if it continued at the speed it's coming right now, about 4:59 for you. So, you know, still ahead of it. And one thing to just keep in mind here, anytime we're talking about active weather like this, is we need to be building our armor. And the way to do that is a couple of different ways. Number one, never rely on just one source. Make sure you have multiple layers to protect you in the case of severe weather. Weather call is what I'll talk more about that in a minute, but that's what I have for my family. It is that personalized tornado warning to let you know, hey, something has happened. Matt's on a different storm. Well, if I'm on a different storm, not looking at your storm, we'll get there. But weather call will probably get there first. And so the folks down here, while I'm up there looking at that other thunderstorm, we're debating what's going on in Houston, get the weather call for the severe thunderstorm warning, and they're aware. Mississippi Live Weather app does an excellent job with its alerts. During the day, we're in great shape. At night, do not disturb can sometimes knock that off. So make sure you have multiple ways to find out if you're in the danger zone. I will say Code Red has not been working. I have not got an update. Gabe, if you would be willing to look at, if you would be willing to go and look at Three Rivers Planning Development's website, see if there's been a new update on that on Code Red. There was a hack with Code Red. Code Red wasn't working as of recently. Maybe things have gotten better. Honestly, unfortunately, I have not checked of late, the very latest on that there. But we are still showing, again, some rotation. Bowles Chapel down there south of Bowles Chapel, north of Providence, north of Mississippi Highway 14, and east of Mississippi Highway and south Mississippi Highway 12 there in Winston County, our area of circulation. Looking at that shear, that amount of rotation, that's less impressive than what we have on our storm up to the north. Let's come back up to that storm to the north, and we're going to change our radar sites here for a second, as we've been monitoring things very closely up here in and around locations back up toward Chickasaw County. I do want you to note how you're going to go from this looking like very little to looking like a lot more as I change radar sites. So this is looking from Jackson, and then this is looking from up here in Monroe County. You might say, well, hold on. Which one of those is right? Dare I say both? And here's why. The reason they're both right is because these are low top storms. So they're very compact where there's more impact, right? And typically with a severe thunderstorm, we expect it to be a lot taller than this. That's one thing that I think does limit this somewhat, hopefully on its overall severe potential. But again, we're concentrated closer to the surface and where we're having this. We're going to get some spin out of these, but just because we have spin doesn't mean they're going to produce tornadoes, okay? It's possible. It's not impossible. How about that? That's probably the better way to put it. I'm going to pull out what we call a shear swath. And this allows us to see like the rotation threat over time. The reason that's important is you can kind of see the track that some of these have taken, like that one in Calhoun County, and it allows it just as something's going to jump off the map there. See if there's one of these that maybe we should be paying closer attention to. I do show a few of those spots there. This is even picking up on the Kosciuszko storm this far out. Let's go again back to the Jackson radar site on that one there. And it's also picking up on the Calhoun one as well. So again, our stronger storms being picked up on that. So I know some next folks are going to say, well, what about Union? It's seeing it way up there. So let's look from Memphis on that. Again, not seeing much from Memphis, and from Monroe County, not as much as well. So you might be seeing some winds up high closer to the surface. So there's a lot of different things we're sorting through, and the fact we're able to sort through all this means that there's question, and anytime there's question, that's a good sign. I'm going to bring in our camera from the North Mississippi Storm Chasers out of Amory once again. Amory, of course, on your screen there, looking back into that storm. And as we kind of bring down those tornado safety rules here for a moment, kind of bring it back here to our normal shot to give you kind of a full screen look here. Bounce around quite a bit here. I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Lawpon. Current time is 4:32 p.m. You're watching Mississippi Live Weather on the Mississippi Live Weather app, on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, and all the different places. Appreciate all of you guys for tuning in with us right now. I see CCN Ivan Hooper on YouTube saying, I'm scared right now. If I'm doing that, I need to apologize for a second. We are watching things. Weird things can happen where you see a tornado pop out of this kind of setup, but I want to tell you that that is not necessarily a likelihood. We are tracking something, but I want to be crystal clear. This is not a tornado outbreak. Tornadoes are pretty unlikely in this scenario. But the fact that we have a couple rotating thunderstorms, that's why we're monitoring it out of an abundance of caution. So still trying to get an idea on what these are all capable of because of that there. With that in mind, again, checking, I don't know, Gabe, if you could pull up Adrian's shot there with the North Mississippi Storm Chasers. Again, if we can get that up and going, I'm kind of watching that behind the scenes here. If that comes back, we'll see that there. Again, this is looking toward that storm from probably the Chickasaw County area there. Adrian Roncahone with the North Mississippi Storm Chasers. As you very well know, cell service is what cell service is, and so from time to time it can be difficult to get good, clean shots out. But he was most recently in Houston in monitoring the thunderstorms there in Chickasaw County. You can see that there's two there that we're watching. One that's closer to Parkersburg, just kind of east of Houston, northeast of Houston, and one south there toward Woodland as well. I'll be honest, the Woodland one near Manti looks a little bit more impressive. I'm going to check and see if I again can pull up that Maben camera.
Matt, while you are looking at that, I do want to note that power outages are being reported in Calhoun County, just south of Calhoun City, exactly where that rotation went through. I mean, of course, it was when it was diminished at that point, but still a note that some of these winds can be damaging and cause a few power outages. And that's the blessing with the Mississippi Live Weather app is you have it on your handheld device. As long as that phone's charged, then you have access to the stream.
You're absolutely right. It's part. Let's be clear. There are a couple of reasons we made this transition. And one is nobody's been taking something other than this to their severe weather shelter for years, right? So might as well get in and on all the devices at all the times. That's part of the reason we made this transition to the Mississippi Live Weather app in the first place. I'm looking here. This is still, I think, kind of has more of a westerly direction. I'm going to see if I can make Maben look more, again, northwest. There we go. Oops, I don't want to overcorrect here, but let's kind of get this more of a northerly direction, kind of looking into that storm. I know we're going to kind of look through the tower, which is, you know, the ugliest possible thing we can do. And I get that, but I'm going to see if we can kind of get a shot into this. So, God, man, I had to look all the way northeast to get it. So we don't have a good shot looking north, unfortunately, just because of the legs of the tower on there. But that's not true. That's straight north there. Okay, so that's looking toward the base of this storm. Let's go ahead and zoom this in a little bit more. Ooh, man. It'll take me a little while to get adjusted to the sensitivity on this. So that's, again, looking toward kind of the underbelly of it. I wonder if it's difficult for me to pull up another radar at the same time. So give me a moment. I'm going to get rid of this and come right back to it, all right? So give me just a moment here to do that. Click stop. And I forget everyone gets to watch that. Hold on. Let's get rid of that and make sure we got the right angle. So Maben is right here, right? So that road you saw a second ago is looking along Highway 15. I'm getting these showers in advance. I need to be just east of 15. So let's bring Maben back up here for a moment. Okay, so you can see 15. That's that road at the bottom of the screen there. So let's go ahead and we will zoom it back out just a little bit more.
Matt, they're continuing the warning in Atala County with tour possible, so we're continuing to keep eyes on that behind the scenes.
Absolutely. And unfortunately, I think that lead storm there might be just enough in advance of that. But we could see the area of concern, I think, right there just past it. So No rotation of the ground at that point, but we're going to have to watch that looking there in the southern part of Chickasaw County. Current time is 4:36. I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Lopon. You hear the voice of our meteorologist Gabe Maynard behind the scenes there, monitoring a number of severe thunderstorm, potentially rotating thunderstorms out there. The one he was mentioned a moment ago here, southern Choctaw County, close to the panhandle of Choctaw County there, near the Kerr community, an area of rotation that the National Weather Service there in Jackson says has the potential to try to produce a tornado. Now, saying this, looking at this, this is our severe thunderstorm warning in effect until 5:15 p.m. We do have still fairly broad rotation, again, showing up there on this. I don't show, pixel to pixel wind change. And if I were to make this a very slow loop, I'm going to make this 1 minute data. I'm going to make it a 30-minute loop. And let's get that into play here for a moment. I'll step to this side so we can see this here. The rotation was a lot stronger when that warning first came out than what it is right now. And so that's another thing that we haven't really mentioned. If we're going to end up seeing something that tries to spin up a tornado, it will not be long-lived. It should be relatively weak and should be relatively short-lived. The main thing you're going to see is what Adrian has right there, which is quite a bit in the way of very heavy rainfall with these storms as they move in. Adrian with the North Mississippi Storm Chasers on that storm. You kind of hear him there. We can appreciate the good folks with North Mississippi Storm Chasers and Spotters for allowing us to utilize their camera network. But very heavy rainfall. The main impact most of us will see from time to time, some strong gusty winds and a few areas of rotation. But like Adrian's showing you there, it's sometimes very difficult to be able to spot that rotation depending on exactly how it's all kind of playing out for you. As we bring it back here again, there's our warning for Choctaw, Attala County, Winston County, presently in effect until 5:15 p.m. And that rotation still fairly broad. Checking the shear, the rotation on that, we do show kind of the one little spot there closer to the Kerr community in the very southern part there of Choctaw County. As far as hail goes, not much in the way of hail potential out of this, but not an impossibility to see maybe one or two little pea-sized hailstones, but hail's not likely in these low-top storms. And I do appreciate the good folks at True Shield Roofing for sponsoring our hail threat potential. It's one of the algorithms here that we utilize in the Mississippi Live weather app, as well as here on Mississippi Live Radar. It does some computational sort of stuff for us during severe weather. It's one of those new things that we're still excited to get to learn how to use and hopefully to try to keep you guys safe. Looking up here, again, storms near Phoebe. If for folks there in West Point behind this here, we'll bring up our camera in West Point. You might be asking, what's going on? We've looked kind of every direction but over top of you. I think back toward Phoebe, again, heavy rainfall with that storm there generally working your direction. We'll double check the angle here in on this. So let's see, our camera. Bring that one up in West Point. Gabe, I found out from HazCamps that pretty soon they'll be able to alphabetically coordinate these, which I am definitely looking forward to as well. Let's look this back here, fly back toward more the southwest. So give a second for this camera to kind of shift a little bit. So that's looking right toward that storm that we're looking at toward Phoebe. Just, you see the glow of the clouds there, 62 the dew point, 68 the temperature. North Mississippi Storm Chasers and Spotters camera there, but nothing that's overly concerning there. I am instead going to point this back up toward the storm that we were looking through the storm, trying to look in Maben a moment ago there. This is one that is up there a little closer to, there we are. There's a better shot of that. I went too far. Y'all have to be patient with me this first severe weather season as I get used to having cameras. We've never really had cameras to utilize before, so it's going to take me a while to get used to actually being able to look at these storms again. So, I mean, I see some dark stuff, but I don't see anything, sharp, no true lowerings down here that are overly concerning. So, yeah, I would say I'm not really particularly concerned with what I'm looking on that one at all. So that tells us even though radar is looking a little more impressive, that is looking a little bit less impressive. So a good sign there. Gabe, I'm going to bring you back in here for a second. Two questions. Number one, let's look at those power outages you were talking about, because I know you have some of those popped up there. And two, did we ever get the forecast into the thing?
Yes, forecast is in, so we'll be able to look at the future, and trust me, it looks a lot better. But current power outages, I do want to note, shout out the Natchez Trace Electric Power Association for getting those outages fixed. As you can see behind me, or I guess on this side, only 6 customers out. Just a moment ago, it was at 120. Now that could have been one of those fuses that they just had to fix real quick, and it fixed a lot of those outages, but still, the ability to fix that just like that. Shout out to our electric power cooperatives, hard at work this evening, making sure that everyone is taken care of. But outages currently not exactly high. One of the more the higher locations is actually Grenada County. As you can see, 13 customers out. Down in Itala County, we have 5 customers out, so we're continuing to look at that behind the scenes for that increasing number. Again, this is going to be a storm that we pay attention to as it moves more into Winston County, Choctaw County, and just continues to, as of right now, remain at the current strength. We do expect that some impacts could be seen whenever it comes to those power outages, but we'll keep eyes on that behind the scenes. But yeah, I mean, you see the power outages right there behind you. We're definitely trying to be optimistic, hopeful that we don't see any more outages, but so far it's been pretty minimal as these storms have worked their way on through.
Absolutely. Been very fortunate that. Our meteorologist, Gabe Maynard, there reporting back in the studio. Appreciate that, Gabe. Current time is now 4:42, almost 4:43. I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Lawpon. You're watching Mississippi Live Weather. Yeah, a few spots with some spotty power outages. Luckily, not much out there. We do have one severe thunderstorm warning in effect for Winston County, parts of Choctaw County. You'll note that they have canceled out that'd be Itala County from that, as the most interesting part of that thunderstorm has moved out of Itala County. Bringing it in a little closer on Mississippi Live Weather radar, looking at that near the Kerr community and south of Tolston, south of where this storm south of Ackerman is kind of most impressive at this time. Let's get a storm track on it. It's been 40 miles per hour, has been about the speed that this thunderstorm has been moving. So it's keeping it close to, we'll say 35 to 40 miles per hour. And again, some rotation showing up on this, but not a lot, thankfully. So we show high point there. You know, the original track, I left out Louisville, went back, added in just because, you know, sensitivity issues, and I get that. Leaving you out on this one because anything that's rotating on this should stay north of you unless something dramatically changes there. So again, high point, we're at 452 there. McMillan, 455. 502 Gum Springs, Evergreen there at 504. Webster, 507. 511 Bethedin. Lacfoma, I should say, at 506, and Winston Community at about 521. Lightning, we're about 71 strikes primarily out of this storm, one of our stronger. And we look at the shear on it, a little bit more than what we had earlier on. We're also looking out of a different radar site there as well. Looking at our various severe weather threats is kind of boil that down to just kind of one product here at this moment. It does show maybe a little bit of hail possible out of this, but in general, expecting that to be pretty limited. If we go back a couple of scans, just kind of double check how it has behaved. We did previously get just one little spot where we get that pink for some shear showing up, showing that there is a, you know, as we do the computations on this, also kind of picking up maybe some hail, but mainly heavy rainfall, biggest impact out of that storm there at this time. If we check the wind mode on it, which did have a decent bit more shear. And again, that does perfectly kind of correlate. We're going back here to 432, so this is subtracting 12 minutes on this, closer to when this warning was originally issued. That area of rotation, though, has since moved eastward and since weakened quite a bit. So notice the latest scans there, broadening, still showing up, but broadening a bit more as it approaches high point there and locations, the southern part of Choctaw County in particular, where this is. So kind of bring it in a little bit closer. You can see Spey Road, kind of the spot we're watching this, and this would be the Choctaw and Winston County line right there. Kind of moving toward Elanio Road, Trump Seed Road, Dempsey and Kennedy Road, as it approaches kind of high point there, kind of paralleling Mississippi Highway 25. Well, at least paralleling 14, and eventually get closer to 25 once it gets north of Louisville. Clearing that off of the track there, and we'll kind of bring it back on the wide shot. We'll leave it just on the wind rotation mode here. The storms that we originally cut in for during the 3 o'clock hour, I do not see a tornado threat on this batch anymore here, I'll be honest. And honestly, it was only for a few moments that we did. Now, do I have rotation? Yeah, I mean, you can see kind of a shape there close to Okolona. And there's some other embedded sort of shapes in this. It's just at this point, there might be just too much, which means that you have enough storms, but not enough shear to kind of keep them separate. We'll look at the wind mode here on Mississippi Live Weather Radar for a moment. and we'll put this into motion, making this a 1 hour loop. And you can see we don't have, again, any of those sort of what we call shear markers indicating the areas of rotation. Not as impressive as they were a little bit ago. And honestly, just looking at this, as you can see, the rotation still pretty broad at this time. I do want to bring in our meteorologist, Gabe Maynor, here for a moment. And Gabe, I know you're monitoring things behind the scene. What you got?
Well, Tornado Watch is going to be issued. It's going to be a short duration one. They're working on getting that. Yeah, they're working on getting it drawn out, but they're getting more impressed by some of these cells as they move into a more primed environment compared to what was originally thought on models. Now, I was looking at models behind the scenes, and some of them did get up to 62, 63 degree dew points, but some of the dew points that are actually reading right now are in the mid 60s. So the potential is there for some of these storms, especially on the southern half of our viewing area, could get into a more primed area and potentially start to turn and interact with the right direction. But yeah, definitely watching that storm there in northwest Winston County as that continues to move on through. We do have that shear vector showing up, but more of this isolated activity south of Atala County, Winston County, as that starts to mature, getting into Philadelphia there towards the Macon area in probably about an hour to hour and a half. I do think that's definitely an area to pay attention to. Now, the watch still drawing it up, so I'll let you know once that gets issued so we can show folks, but a little new development.
And I think I can show them I'm going to show them the outline from the folks at the Weather Service. So give me a moment to kind of pull up that here. This is one of of the ways we can kind of show. This is the area that they're looking at here. Again, this is kind of a gritty behind the scenes sort of graphic, so I apologize for that. There's a little closer. So generally speaking, looking at locations here east of the Natchez Trace, pretty much the spots that we were talking about, that threat increasing slightly more for, again, as you can see there, and this from the government, from the National Weather Service there, the potential to possibly see the storm try to produce a tornado. So there you go on that. Gabe pointed this out a second ago here, down for the storm out here closer to Choctaw County. We do have a shear marker showing up for that rotation. Gabe, if you would, behind the scenes, pull up the Macon camera behind the scenes. Let's get the camera, make sure we're pointed back toward the west so we have an angle to look at this here in a second, and we'll pull that up. But noting that increasing potential, the fact the Weather Service is also looking and saying, maybe this is a little bit more. Let's just be thinking ahead here for a second on kind of how we're preparing ahead. So before warning is ever issued, just make sure your phone is charged. You have on hard-soled shoes. You have some important documents and medications just in case you do have to go to a tornado shelter. And then, of course, stay within steps of that tornado safe place. If necessary, we're not there yet, but if necessary, and it looks like this is taking that next step and you find yourselves in far eastern Winston County, or you're out there in Noxubee or maybe southern Lowndes County, and this were to get stronger like that, that's when we have to do that last step there, evacuating mobile homes. But ultimately, we're just trying to assess our surroundings and make sure that we are in the safest possible location. That's kind of one of the big headlines anytime we're talking about this, is we just want to make sure we're as safe as possible. So just a reminder, that safe place is a sturdy structure, a small windowless room where you can wrap up in blankets and pillows, put on a helmet to protect yourself from debris, and stay there until you can get the all clear. But I think one of the most important things to remember is you have to know if you're in danger. And that's where Mississippi Live Weather Call comes in here. As we kind of bring it here behind the scenes, I'll pull up Weather Call for a second. Weather Call is kind of that personalized tornado warning to let you know, hey, if they do have to step this up and it does require a tornado warning to be issued, then we need to probably make sure that we have a way to find out. That's where Weather Call comes in. It is $15 a year. It's, I guess, really only about $1 a month or so, a little bit more than that. But it will call you if a tornado warning is issued for your area, and then call you back if a tornado has been confirmed. Also calls for life-threatening flash flooding and extreme severe thunderstorm warnings as well. So there are multiple ways in which it can protect you and your family, and it's what I have to protect my family. So certainly recommend you checking out Weather Call, and appreciate that. I see Gabe adjusting the camera there in Macon behind the scenes. I will note, Gabe, that if you can do that on probably the BAM computer as well, would probably be the best place to be able to do that, because I think we're going back and forth over each other. But I appreciate you pulling up there, because now I can see it behind the scenes. Let's go ahead and bring that up for everyone else at home to be able to check out that camera looking back toward the Macon area. As we bring it back here again to our shot in Macon, appreciate the folks at the North Mississippi Storm Chasers for again, help us utilize these cameras. We're gonna look back slightly to the left here, so we're looking more directly west, because we've got to look a long ways to the west to see this there. And so, I mean, it's just looking through a lot of dark at this point here, and I do worry, based on what time sunset hits, which is basically now, that we could potentially be dealing with a scenario where this is it's dark before we have anything to end up seeing there. So yeah, that could be the way this works out. I'm gonna bring this back over here to the regular version of radar. I'm gonna let Gabe kind of track some of the things here. Gabe, I'm gonna log into your computer. I'm gonna let you do a storm track on this as we bring you back on here. Let you do a storm track from the monitor there on this storm, kind of latest on that. Again, severe thunderstorm warning in effect until 5:15.
Yeah, and we're going to go on the part of the storm that has that rotation. That's going to be right over the area of High Point, still in that Winston County area, but going into the southern portion of Choctaw County as well. So if we drag this out, and again, it's going to be a bit ahead of our shear vector just because, I mean, the storm's moving. We're tracking it still at about 35 miles an hour, and that's going to be on the safe side of things. So as we highlight in a few of these points, I'm going to drag these sites right over here, and you can see High Point right over the top of you guys right now, 454. So go ahead and be steps away from that safe place just to be on the safe side of things, still a ways away from producing, but it is getting a little bit more concentrated. As we get closer to Gum Springs, that's going to be 505, Webster 510, Beth Eden about 515, Winston 526, Lynn Creek 535, and on there towards Oktok by 536. That's going to be getting into the southern part of Oktibbeha County. Luckily going south of Starkville. That's where we believe right now. But I am working behind the scenes to get our meteorologist Caleb Edelblut potentially getting a shot of that storm down there, because he is in Starkville, finished up the school year. So fortunately, a lot of those students on out of town, so we're not going to see anything, or at least they're not going to see anything as they hopefully went on home. But as you can see, the latest scans continue to come on in, and that is going to be moving basically right over High Point right now. And if we pull that up, I'm going to change this over to our wind mode, our velocity mode, and that's going to be, let me pull this up right there. We go. You're still getting that concentrated area of the inflow, outflow, and that point right there at the intersection, right over the top of High Point. If we drag this in a little bit closer, we can get a few specific areas. So that's going to be right along High Point Ware Road, moving closer to Highway 15. We're about 1 minute away from that point. And as you can see, total strikes about 35. So this is still an energetic system, meaning that it is still mature enough to produce something in the near future. But still right now we are a little bit of a ways away, and you can see that a little bit better with our debris mode right here. Nothing showing up that's showing anything on the ground. So again, we're looking at that hook. Let me drag this back in. That hook that's happening right there, and you can really, if I draw this out, get the inflow, outflow a little bit better. So you have this wrap around right there, and unfortunately, there we go, drag this out. So we get this wrap around, and we have that inflow right here on that leading edge. And so that's where you're going to get this interaction of that inflow, outflow direction. And so this is the point that we're watching for that rotation. If we make this back into our wind mode right here, dragging this out right there, there's where we get that inflow outflow. So lining up with where we expect that reflectivity to be. So that's why we're keeping eyes on this cell as we continue over the next about hour or so, as that still is in a primed environment. So bring it back here to our preset
Gabe.
mode.
What we'll also do, Gabe, if you can, I need you to verify on that screen in front of you. Click verify so it saves that login info on the screen in front of you. I'll steal radar from you for a second, so that way it stays logged in for that account. That work?
That works.
Okay, I'm gonna switch it over here for a second while we get that done. A few house cleaning things behind the scenes, so Gabe's able to control the cameras from there in front of the monitor. Had to get him all logged in here. As he talked about, there is that rotation here, and again, we're fairly high up. We are about 4,600 feet above the surface. I mean, that's close to a mile up. And when you're talking about a low top storm like this, that's important, because we're just looking. We would want to see closer to the surface, and I guess that's every single day. But on these kind of storms, it becomes pretty important as well. So yeah, that's why part of the reason I think the rotation looks the way it does is just because of how high up we are looking away. But clearly it shows this is a rotating thunderstorm, no question about that. But that also means that once getting confirmation as far as tornadoes are concerned can sometimes be tricky in this sort of situation. Hopefully a situation where we don't get that kind of confirmation there. So generally speaking, let's get you a storm track ahead on this. Again, speed on this storm continues to be about 40-ish miles per hour. So we'll take about 35, 39, we'll say there. So Gum Springs about 502, Webster 507. We're looking closer there toward Bethedin there at 511. And gradually kind of working its way beyond that at that point in time there. Gabe, if I'm going to bring you back up here for a second. I know that you're working on trying to get Caleb up and going on that. Talk to me. I might be better off on trying to get that up. So talk to me what we've got. Does he have a vMix call login?
So I just sent him my vMix call login, so I'm hopefully that he can use that. And I was just going to take off the lower thirds. That's what I was trying to do behind the scenes. But he's working on getting that done. He has sent me a time-lapse video from there, so from Starkville, should I say. So working on getting that input into the system at some point throughout our coverage. But yeah, he can kind of walk through how things are feeling down there. I'm sure it feels a little bit more primed whenever we're talking about comparing that to here in Tupelo to all the way south in the Golden Triangle area. So we kind of get a first look at that, and so that's where he can kind of tell us, is it sticky? Is it warm? Because up here, it doesn't exactly feel primed for those severe weather conditions.
It does not. Okay, Mississippi Live weather at 5 starts.
When choosing a dentist for our family, Tupelo Smiles was the answer for us. They greet us with warm smiles right when we walk in the door, and they make us feel so welcome. We love Tupelo Smiles.
At First Choice Bank, we know you can't always make it before the bank closes. With our integrated teller, you can talk to a live person as late as 7 p.m. on weekdays and noon on Saturdays. It's not just an ATM, it's an ITM. First Choice Bank, your choice for banking.
Mississippi's trusted weather experts. This is Mississippi Live Weather at 5.
I'm keeping you all, just Matt Lopon. You're watching our continued coverage here. Mississippi Live weather at 5 starting right now. Gabe, behind the scenes, I'll have you do a push alert to let people know that we're continuing here with our live coverage. What is new as of 4:58? Winston County now extended here with a severe thunderstorm warning. Does extend past Craig Springs there into Oktibbeha County, as well as for locations back there closer to the northwest section of Noxubee County. So Noxubee, Oktibbeha, Winston counties all under a new severe thunderstorm warning till 5:45 p.m. for the potential for a thunderstorm showing some signs of rotation to possibly produce some damaging winds and maybe something more than that. We do have team coverage this afternoon of these storms here. I'm in the remote room-to-room weather center here. I want to bring in, hold on, because I think we have another click here to make. There we go. Bring in our meteorologist, Gabe Maynor here, also back in the true room-to-room weather center there. I'll get Caleb up. Don't worry, Gabe. I'll direct this one here if we're good at that. And our meteorologist, Caleb Edelblut, as we kind of implied there behind the scenes, he is looking toward this thunderstorm there south of Starkville. He's where we begin our broadcast at 5 p.m. Caleb?
Hey, well, thanks for letting me come in. You can definitely tell that it's in the southern portions of Oktibbeha County, just with how much darker it is out there. That's looking towards Highway 12, looking towards the southern portion of our county. But the storm's starting to move in, starting to see darker clouds start to move in as well. I was up north in North Farm, and that brought in some kind of nice sunset looks. And actually, I just moved around. You can see a flash of lightning as well. So starting to see that storm get a little bit closer towards our county and kind of just grace by it just a little bit. But right now, not really pouring, not really raining here, just a soft drizzle and sprinkle occurring. So nothing too intense happening, but you can definitely tell where it is darker and going to affect those in our county as well. But still getting closer and closer, moving in. You can definitely tell it got a lot darker than what it was earlier. So just a little cool sight to see. I got a time lapse to show as well. So hoping to keep eyes on this storm, see if it'll be a little bit more energetic, because there was a shot of lightning just a second ago. But as of right now, nothing too intense, which is good here in Oktibbeha County.
Okay, that's our meteorologist, Caleb Edelblut there in Oktibbeha County. We'll probably talk back with you here in a minute. As you can see, our meteorologist, Gabe Maynor, back in the studio as well. And Gabe, one of the things, again, continuing to monitor on these power outages, they have improved somewhat, have they not?
They have. We had 120 outages in Calhoun County just about an hour ago when that storm, the first initial storm that caused us to go live, went on through. Now, as we look at a few of those outages, I'm going to bring it back here to our overall power outage map, update that. And as you can see, not exactly a ton of outages. Tate County having about 372. That's that secondary line that we haven't talked too much about, and that's going to bring some gusty winds as well. But luckily, a lot of that energy has been eaten up by this first line. So how much is left? That's the golden question as we head into that secondary threat. But already seeing over 300 outages shows that it does pack a punch still.
Absolutely. So where are we most concerned? We've kind of alluded to this a minute ago, and again, our continued coverage prior to the beginning of the 5 p.m. show, we were in pretty close here on this storm that we dapped down in north of Louisville in Winston County here. Going back to the wind mode on Mississippi Live Weather Radar, still do have rotation. And we're looking at this from a bunch of different sites. This is from our Monroe County site there. Again, Louisville, bottom of the screen there here. And looking at the site from Jackson, still show that rotation. But in either case, if I go back even just a few minutes, that rotation was substantially stronger. And I do need to, again, because we have some things that are going to be a little different here from what we've done before, need to clarify. When you see these circles here, we have some new computation involved in Mississippi Live Weather Radar, some really cutting edge stuff that allows us to see and pick out early rotation. So that's when you see that, typically that's kind of a pay attention symbol. Doesn't always mean tornado, but it does mean that something is potentially cooking there that needs to be paid attention to. In saying that, this has weakened a little bit more as it's moved northeast, but I still showed there just kind of northeast of Mississippi Highway 25 up here in northern Winston County. An area of rotation that still deserves to be monitored as it moves toward the northeast. Bring about the precipitation mode. Let's get you a storm track ahead on this, and we're going to kind of check out our other thunderstorms here in a moment as well. So tracking that toward the northeast, 508, we're looking for the Webster community there. We're looking closer to Bethedin. Let me clear that, move that over on the side. So we have that all the way over there, so we kind of cram everything possible. Something like that. We'll figure out the best spot to stick all this stuff eventually. So again, north of Louisville where this is, northeast of Louisville, and it'll stay northwest of Macon. Blue box, there's a new tornado watch issue just moments ago. More on that in just a second. Winston community, we're looking at 522 there. Lynn Creek 530. Penns at 542. 542 also there for Crawford. Again, moving about 40, 45 miles per hour. So I referenced this a second ago. I'm going to pull off a lot of the stuff here for a moment and put on just the alert. So you can see that severe thunderstorm warning. That's what that yellow county is there. All the counties in blue is a tornado watch. That's in effect until 9 p.m. For our Mississippi counties here, again, Mississippi Live Weather, we're looking there for Itawamba County at 9 p.m. 9 p.m. Franklin, Alabama, Marion, Alabama, Lamar, Pickens, Noxubee, Winston, Choctaw, Oktibbeha, Lowndes, Clay, and Monroe counties. Also just outside the area, Kemper, Neshoba, and Leake counties, all under a tornado watch, that in effect until 9 p.m. this evening. Watch means conditions are in place that could potentially lead to the development of something, and luckily could is still the question on this. But because we're looking so far ahead, we just need to be thinking about things. We need to be thinking about building our armor because additional warnings and alerts are going to be likely going forward. Again, I got, the different alerts. I did not get the tornado watch alert for the Mississippi Live weather app because technically Lee County, where I'm located, did not. But for those folks out there, you should have gotten an alert in the last couple minutes here related to that as well. As we bring in Mississippi Live Weather Radar, I'm going to go on the wider shot here for a second because we have not really talked about the northern set of storms. And we're going to start, I think, looking for the rotation there on that storm northwest of Amory and west of Smithville for a moment. I have some broad rotation in that, but I don't know that I'm impressed by what we see. So we're looking here where it says Coggin subdivision. This is, that'd be US 45, and then that's 278 there, Highway 6, the triangle there in Monroe County, kind of circling the area, what we're watching. When I look at the wind mode here, it's right about there, the spot that we're kind of watching. Let me circle it. That's probably the better bet on this. We'll circle it with a yellow circle right there. And we go back between the precipitation mode. I do show just kind of a little bit of a notch showing up there. but not quite enough, I think, to become something more. Let's look at the shear rate, which allows us to kind of look at the wind. And it does have a few spots there as we clear this out. There's a few spots there where we do have a decent amount of shear. So we'll check something else. We'll check our threat tracker. Again, mainly just hail. What it says there's possibility of hail. I think that's really overdone. You could see even looking over the last hour on our hail threat track, not a lot of that being depicted there. So I think that's one of the signs. I think all of our algorithms kind of overdoing things just a little bit. Let's get a storm track though on this forward. And speed on this, and all these storms are going about 40 miles per hour, and I'll double check that with our meteorologist Gabe Maynor here coming up in a minute. And we'll go 35 to 40, and that gets us almost up there to I-22 if it continues at that speed. Again, pick up that Mississippi Live Weather app. Make sure you have multiple layers to protect yourself in case severe weather becomes more of an issue. But if you're ahead of this, I would be saying that, we at least maybe getting to your safe place is overdoing it. But let's just say knowing where it is, just in case this were to get stronger. It's pretty unlikely we're going to have sustained significant tornadoes, but a brief spin up, not an impossibility out of this as this moves there closer to Carolina, Cardsville, back toward Academy, locations back toward the north and east. That's the direction that is heading and likely to continue heading over the next little bit here as it works its way toward Marion and Franklin counties. To clear things off there on Mississippi Live Weather Radar, and I'm going to bring this again back here to our mobile room-to-room weather center here at home to kind of showcase this a little better. These storms up here closer to Boonville are a little bit weaker compared to what we have farther south, so that's luckily a good sign there. Hopefully one that continues with that. But still some heavy rainfall certainly likely out of that. And there are additional thunderstorms packed with this secondary line behind this. Coming up here in a couple of moments, we are going to try to check in with North Mississippi Storm Chasers. Stan, it does look like, is out there. We will see if he has a live stream. Gabe, we'll be looking at that here in just a moment. We'll have the very latest on that as Mississippi Live Weather continues here from the Room to Room Weather Center right after this.
Give the gift of a delicious burger from Bulldog Burger. A soup and sandwich from Sweet Pepper's Deli. Appetizers and cocktails from The Grill. Or even a wood-fired steak from Harvey's. Choice is the perfect gift. An all-in-one gift card from Eat With Us.
I don't remember how it started.
Go to that.
Our back and forth. It always came back. Dad! You probably don't remember what you told me.
That was perfect.
But I heard every word.
If you're a family of 4, 5,
Or 6, 7.
Merry Christmas
From Mississippi Live Weather.
That was good.
I think that was the one.
Okay.
There we go.
Oh, you guys didn't do it.
No, we didn't.
Right now, from the Room to Room Weather Center, here's Mississippi's Chief Meteorologist, Matt Lobhon.
Good evening in Macon. Our Mississippi Live Weather cameras here brought to you by the North Mississippi Storm Chasers, showing some of the dark clouds on that storm that's prompted a severe thunderstorm warning with some rotation in it in Winston County, moving to where it'll probably clip the northern part of Noxubee County. You're watching Mississippi Live Weather at 5. I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Lawpon alongside our meteorologist Caleb Edelblut and Gabe Maynor. I'm going to bring both of those folks back in here for a moment. Caleb is down there trying to monitor that storm also closely there down into parts of Winston County. I know you're still Oktibbeha County, right, Caleb?
Yes, no, I'm looking at the top of the parking garage on top of the mill, looking south, and that's where we can definitely tell where the darkest parts are due to that storm being just south of our county, clipping it. And honestly, it hasn't been very energetic, which is a good thing to see. From the time y'all last saw me, we saw one lightning clip when I unfortunately flipped the camera to face the north. But since then, I've only seen maybe 2 other flashes, so definitely not an energetic storm affecting us here, or at least I'm not able to see it all the way from here in Starkville. But you can definitely tell kind of where it's moving just south of our county.
You know, real quick here on as far as that goes, does it feel warm enough out there? This is such a marginal, I hate that term because technically a level 1 risk goes down as a marginal risk, but it feels so limited on the amount of fuel out there. I mean, what does it feel like to you?
I mean, I wouldn't even go as far to say humid. I mean, I walked out to go into work and I could tell that there was more moisture and atmosphere present than how dry we've been lately, but it doesn't feel like one of those kind of severe storm setups and that type of humidity outdoors. It's not even that breezy. I mean, I'm on the third story of a parking garage and it's still not even that breezy up here. You can kind of see the flag moving just a little bit in the background. I don't know if you can tell from up here. So seeing some of that breeze affecting us, but I mean, as far as severe weather setup, not really feeling that mugginess, humidity here. You can just definitely tell that that moisture is back a little bit as the drizzle continues, but not feeling that warm out here as of right now.
Okay, that's our meteorologist Caleb Edelblut there. Appreciate you, Caleb, for helping us out here. I'm going to bring back to Gabe and I here for a moment. Of course, Gabe kind of looking at a number of things, watching those cameras around, you're checking utilities, not a ton of power outages, but you did mention there are some showing up there in Winston County. Is that correct?
Webster County, a little bit more north.
Webster
So some
County,
of those
okay,
storms
yeah.
that moved through earlier on today, they have 97 customers out currently. Still looking at Tate County, that's kind of where the highest number of outages are being reported so far. Trying to pull up the Entergy outage map to get a good look at where those have happened. But Webster County, of course, that's been with that line of storms that has progressed on through that leading edge, a little bit more gusty. So this doesn't exactly say tornado, but it could be some of those gusty winds, 30, 40 miles an hour with a saturated ground. That's enough to knock down a few of those power lines. So we just hope, and on top of that, even lightning strikes could take out some of those power and cause some of those power outages. So we're continuing to take those reports. I actually just posted on Facebook to let folks know if they have any outages or any damage to report, go ahead and forward that there, and we can get those reports forwarded to the National Weather Service, or you can do that through the Mississippi Live Weather app. Either way helps us whenever we're getting these warnings going forward, kind of what to expect. Some areas earlier on this afternoon, we're actually talking about potential for hail. Never got any confirmation of that on the ground. So that kind of helps us with some of those extreme hail reports. If there's potential for that later on, we know how to better assess that. So Matt, weather watchers out in the field help us just as much as we try to help them here at Mississippi Live Weather.
Absolutely. Just posted in the chat there asking everyone to let us know what they're seeing. We definitely appreciate that. Bring it back in here. We're looking at 8 to 10, another camera there in Oktibbeha County into the heart of some of those storms. Kind of nasty look at that there. Checking with the North Mississippi Storm Chasers. Maybe be able to get one of Stan's pictures up here in a moment. If you can, Gabe, behind the scenes, let's get some of his pictures because I don't think he has a live stream up and going with that there. But yeah, kind of a rough look there. Dew point coming in 66 and 8 to 10. So it shows you that it's pretty much the near storm environment right where the storm is a little bit more impressive than some other spots out there. As we clear that back off here and bring it back to the rainfall mode. Again, we're going to start south, work north, and then kind of get you through an actual forecast on this as we continue to kind of track what's going on out there. So we show Noxapater coming in again with some showers close to you. This is a non-severe thunderstorm. We'll poke and prod it, show you that the wind mode there does not have, yes, it has a little bit of rotation with it, but nothing that's overly impressive. So bring it back to the rainfall mode. I'm going to track what we call a squall track on kind of front end here. Gabe, on our list of things to do, I need to check. I need to do squall track size. If you'll write that there, squall track size, I'll know what that means when the time comes. So Noxapater 516, we're looking close to the Height community at 520, Claytown 528, closer there to Meshulaville 540 and 557. Macon, this is a different one than the one we were looking at in Macon a moment ago as far as the impressiveness, and that one luckily is not terribly impressive. This is the one that has prompted, again, the severe thunderstorm warning you'd see in effect for Winston County, that in effect until 5:45 p.m. for locations there. Still do have rotation on this. This one is rotating in a more impressive way. It's larger. The overall size of the storm does make a difference. I know size does matter. You can tell just by looking how tall it is, right? This one has the storm just stretching up just a little bit taller there, closer to, say, around 45,000 feet, where you see kind of that orange on there. That's one of those spots where, again, down toward Philadelphia, up here north of Louisville, a little taller than some of the other storms. That 5,000 feet, 40 is probably too low to really pull off a tornado, but that 5,000 feet does make a difference on trying to help that out. So we bring back to the regular rainfall mode here. That's kind of what we're up against when we're tracking this. So looking ahead, getting a storm track on this for locations such as, say, I'm going to get the rotating part here in particular. We'll say Crawford, out there toward Trinity, southern part of Lowndes County. Drag that down. Oops. There we go, right below that there. At some point, we'll figure out the best way to present all this data. But Winston, we show at 520 for you. Penns, 541. Crawford, 541. Trinity, 557. And Plum Rose at 558. This is a Doppler radar indicated area of rotation. And that's why if we're ahead of this, we just need to be kind of planning and thinking ahead just in case this were to get probably a lot stronger before it really got to the point where it was trying to produce significant, weather, including tornadoes. I'd say it's certainly more likely the farther. Honestly, I don't know that it's super duper likely anywhere today, but just not an impossibility. And so hence the reason we're covering this here. So Oktok, Crawford there, again, moving generally toward the Columbus area eventually. Up here north of Starkville, closer to West Point, we have these little showers that have kind of all popped up here, all relatively under-impressive. Let's get a loop on this. Let's make this a 1 hour loop here for some of these spots. And yeah, again, the blue there shows the tornado watch. So I'm going to click that off. All these locations in blue have that tornado watch. Yeah, nothing here that I'm overly concerned with. Just some moderate rainfall going to move into the West Point here in the next little bit. I want to look on the bottom side of these because this is about as close a clean a shot as we've been able to get out of one of these. Our camera there in West Point should give us a nice clean shot on the belly of this. And see, that's what's interesting. Like that looks like, that looks fairly decent considering the fact it is very unimpressive. I mean, looking at the radar there, it's just not terribly impressive. I'm going to double check. Gabe, we'll check the angle that one's looking, and then we'll come to you for Stan's picture here in just a moment. What direction the West Point camera is looking. You should be able to see that on the grid shot here in a second. So we'll double check that as we kind of come back off of that. I do want, if it's pointed a direction other than the one I was thinking of, we might come back to that here in a moment. Up here in Monroe County, these storms, we talked about at the top of the show, had maybe a little bit of broad rotation. I do not see anything overly impressive there. This is all straight line at this point here, if at all, because I have some spots you can almost kind of see how it kind of has like a little arc sort of shape on each of those. So that's a good sign. That's probably some gusty winds, but unlikely to be tornadoes, I would say. So right there. Again, some spots looking forward there. Flynn, we show 521 for you. Looking there closer to Amory, 524. The Wildwood area at 525. Becker at 526. Closer to, say, New Salem and Turon there at about 528 to 530. Parham at 536. And Splunge about 544. Some gusty winds, but I would say I put those below severe limits as well. And then as we clear that off, looking northward up here in Fulton, not impressed by what we're looking at there, just mainly rainfall. I'm going to check a couple cameras. We're looking at Amory, and then we're going to walk northward there to Smithville. Again, kind of in the rainfall there in the Amory area, bouncing around quite a bit, and then kind of bouncing around a bit here up closer to the Smithville area as well as we look back toward the south and west. Out of that one, just some gusty winds, but again, not really in the wind. The big difference there, right, between where you have Smithville, that camera fairly steady. If I revert back to Amory for a second, it's kind of all over the place. So that difference there, as we pull all that off, is the difference between Smithville is kind of ahead of where that camera is. It's just that little bit ahead shows you a sign that, again, this will have some wind with it as it moves in. Just kind of clear that off. I do want to bring in our meteorologist, Gabe Maynard, for just a brief moment here. Let's check out Stan's shots from down there with the North Mississippi Storm Chasers. And Gabe, doesn't look like anything severe out of that, but some interesting looking clouds for sure.
Dare we call it an SLC, a term that Matt taught me, basically meaning scary looking cloud. That's what we're getting there. This is a look out of Louisville, as well as moving towards the Starkville area. Another look there. I mean, it just shows you that a very menacing cloud, but fortunately not exactly getting anything on the ground. You do see a bit of that rain shaft there in the background, so that's some heavy precip associated with it. Another look that we do have out of it is some of that scud cloud that we're getting. I'm not necessarily seeing anything that's organized or rotating, so that's a great sign whenever we're talking about current conditions. But again, we're continuing to assess this as it moves further towards that east-northeast area. I do want to note, Matt, down south, it is south of our viewing area just a bit, but it has a bit more pronounced rotation. If you can kind of compare that, because it is closer to the Jackson radar site, to what we're getting moving through the east side of our viewing area, I mean, you can kind of do a contrast between the two because it's definitely more pronounced a little bit further south.
Okay, we'll do that here in a minute as we, I think, need to go further north. We have not talked a whole lot up about Tishomingo County, partially just to touch on it here for just a moment, to show y'all that there's nothing that's more than just heavy rainfall, and honestly not a lot of lightning strikes on this. So I apologize. We have not really talked about you up in Tishomingo County. There is rain coming through with this. If I check the wind modes here, it's going to be fairly breezy, but I don't see any rotation of significance. You see the green here, the green next to red in this case has to do with the angle versus the radar site as opposed to any rotation. So this is a kind of a wall of wind moving in and rainfall, and nothing particularly more than that at this point here. Come back wide, then we need to kind of hit the rest of our forecast here. Looking forward to kind of let you know what we have the rest of this evening there. And that's, you mentioned the one down there closer to Philadelphia a second ago. Let's go ahead and pull up Jackson, precipitation mode. Yeah, you do have, again, some rotation on that one there. That's prompted a severe thunderstorm warning just east of and near the Philadelphia area at this time. Some strong gusty winds with that. We'll get you a storm track, and then we need to kind of proceed on with the rest of the forecast. And then we'll kind of hit the radar, I think, again at the end here in a moment. So about a 40-mile-per-hour track on that, and Gabe will double-check that speed behind the scenes here in a moment. Dixon, we're looking at 527 there, 533. Linwood, closer to beat line there at 540. Bethesda at 544. And eventually closer to, say, Bluff Springs at 605, Moscow about 605 as well. You also are under that tornado watch in Neshoba County as well. That in effect until, as you can see, I believe that's 9 p.m. there. Double check that for a moment. Of course, yeah, that's 9 for Kemper as well as Neshoba and Leake counties. Okay, so let's kind of pick things up here. We'll go back on the wider shot for a moment. Gabe, I'll look for waving arms if we need to come back here to catch something else. But you also see these thunderstorms back up northwest there, closer to Oxford, Water Valley, kind of working their way back toward the east as well. As we look at kind of the precipitation here on our model, our futurecast, and I'm going to kind of nudge this forward here. You'll see it continues to have next hour or so some of these thunderstorms. I do think sporadic rotation possible out of these thunderstorms as they move eastward. So behind this front, though, you will notice none of that. So once this gets out of here, I think we're in good shape as far as any severe weather is concerned. So we really just have the next couple of hours that we're kind of watching things, having to make sure that nothing goes sideways with this. And hopefully that continues to be the case. Certainly at this point here, we're still in good shape with this, though the National Weather Service, just as of the last moment or two here, continuing our warning for Noxubee, Oktibbeha, and Winston County. So I'm going to pop back over to that, and then we'll pick things back up with your forecast here in a moment. So that's on this storm here. They're continuing the phrase tornado possible on this as we bring it back to the closest radar site there, which would be out of Monroe County. Rotation detected for sure. Tornado possible could be kind of over explaining it for a second. I have at least broad rotation there near Leuphoma, but I mean, I don't know that's got a lot of steps to go before that produces a tornado, thankfully. We do have a little bit of shear showing up with that. Our severe threats say hail's not impossible. Getting down to the nitty-gritty on looking at our hail swath potential here, that is a little less impressive. So you're going to find on severe threats, this is kind of, again, we're unfortunately going to have to teach us the best way to utilize these amazing tools that we have, that we've purchased here, and we're still learning to use everything with them. But so you will notice a lot of times on severe threats here, when it kicks out hail, that's not impossible. This is kind of the maximum threat. In fact, it says it right there, as you can see, peak severe weather threats, not necessarily minimum threats. So if everything is the worst case scenario, that's what this is going to come up with. This is going to come up with your worst case scenario, severe threat. I might just rename that worst case scenario, though that might come with its own negative connotations there. So yes, as of the latest update, again, continuing that severe thunderstorm warning for Winston, for Oktibbeha and Noxubee counties, for the potential for this to possibly try to, again, kick out some heavy rainfall. Tornadoes, I'd say unlikely based on what we're looking at here, but certainly we will watch that closely. I want to bring in our meteorologist, Caleb Edelblut, again. And as we're kind of monitoring things, I got something behind the scenes I got to fix here. And Gabe, I'm going to bring you on here as well, just to kind of double check, make sure we don't have anything else of super concern. Of course, it's got dark there down in Oktibbeha County as you're looking into that there. Yeah, Caleb, what are you seeing?
Well, I mean, if we were here just a few seconds ago, you could definitely tell some of those gusty winds were creeping a little bit closer as that storm continues to kind of just grace by Oktibbeha County. And I could definitely tell it started pouring a little bit heavier, that wind kind of moving across. You can kind of see the sheets of rain move across the parking garage as well. So you can definitely tell it's a little bit closer to where I'm at, but still south of where I'm at. I'm at the just off of Highway 12 here in Starkville, on top of the parking garage, and there have been just a few flashes of lightning, but still the most important thing I've realized is it's not very energetic. I mean, I'm talking a flash maybe every 5 minutes, so definitely nothing crazy. You can definitely tell the raindrops are getting on the camera, making it a little bit ugly, but we're getting there. So nothing too intense going on here in Oktibbeha. Just can tell that it's mainly south of us, and that wind trying to do its best to provide something here for us, but that's about it. Not a very energetic storm at all at this moment, but still
Okay,
looking
that's our
good.
meteorologist, Caleb Edelboot there in Oxford. I can definitely hear that wind kicking up there with that sort of wind sound as well on that.
Yeah, I was wondering if the AirPods would pick that up or not.
Yeah, there's a little bit of that to pick up there. Before we hop on too far, I want to get through this forecast real quick. Anything to add, Gabe, before we hop into the forecast?
Keeping eyes on that secondary line that's developing there in West Mississippi. I think it's enough to assess current conditions and see where that stands. But we are starting to get some of those, those S shapes that catch your eye. I'm not saying there's anything overly concerning at this point, but whenever it starts to get that figure, that's where we need to pay attention to it for the potential of maybe something more concerning later on down the line.
Okay, appreciate that, Gabe. So as we kind of pick things up on the forecast here for a moment, and I apologize, that's going to sometimes, when it makes that transition, you get to see a little TV magic here behind the scenes. This front, once it kind of kicks through, we're pretty much done as we go through the remainder of this evening. So as you can see here over the next little bit, that's exactly what's going to happen. And by around 9 to 10 o'clock tonight, that is largely on out of here. And so behind this, we are drier, we are cooler. Again, we'll get back to radar here in a minute, but for the folks that do want the forecast, this is all out of here overnight, and there are no issues going forward related to this later on this evening or early tomorrow. Low temperatures tomorrow morning expect to be down into the low 30s. So this is a pretty substantial drop in temperatures for tomorrow, especially when you consider where we typically should be for this time of the year, where we were for today. So that is the drier and cooler air arriving. Wind chill temperatures in the 20s. As you can see, going through the day, probably only 40s, maybe mid 40s by midday tomorrow. We're back in the low 40s by tomorrow evening. So a much chillier day on the way as cooler and drier air comes in behind this storm system here. So futurecast as we go into your Friday, keeping things again dry and clear. And so probably another cool morning starting for the first part of early Saturday. As high pressure builds into the area, it will calm down the winds a little bit more by tomorrow evening and late tomorrow night. And that's why temperatures probably just as cool for early Saturday morning as they will be for early tomorrow morning. And again, no precipitation to really add to what we already have out there looking toward, again, your Friday. So low temperatures early Friday morning. We mentioned a moment ago there. Hold on, am I off on day? Or this high temperatures for tomorrow, upper 40s, low 50s. That's right, because I jumped ahead on wind chill temperatures there. So yeah, dry. And as we go into Friday night, again, mostly dry conditions do continue. I know one of the big things a lot of folks are excited about, interested in, is going to be that Ole Miss game with Tulane coming up on Saturday. The good news is high pressure is in control and will largely keep everything kind of out of here as we go into Saturday as well, despite the fact we do have a little bit of precipitation, not impossible north and west, with a front eventually moving toward us. So again, early Saturday morning, we're low 30s out there to mid 30s for some of those temperatures. By the way, Gabe, on our to-do list, I need to fix future wind chills to only show the one-time period there. Because we're just kind of working through our fix list that we'll get done after the show here. But yeah, low 30s out there for early Saturday morning for those temperatures, and wind chills probably pretty close. So what are we looking at for Futurecast Saturday? Again, mostly dry conditions on our combined HRRR and strike model here through midday. You can start to make some arguments for slight chances for rainfall late into the evening. We're hopeful that's not something that impacts that forecast for the Ole Miss game there. You see only Northwest Mississippi has maybe a spritz, and even then I might be overdoing it to describe it like that. So low 60s for highs. Gabe, also adding to our list, I need to change the background model on that would be day 3 highs. apparently I'm going to catch all the things today. If we're telling people we've got a list, we might as well just put stuff on the list, right? Okay, so 7-day forecast has a 62, though, for the high temperature on Saturday. Sunday, we're 58 degrees on Monday, 66 as we look toward Tuesday. And yes, looking toward Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, we're going to have temperatures easily into the 70s for some of those days. Looking forward next week, it is a lot warmer as we go toward that time period. Okay, with that in mind, let's bring it back in here to Mississippi Live Weather Radar. I will have for you that forecast that, let's just stop. We'll jump. Give me a moment. Take that out of play. I'm going to dig up that Ole Miss forecast. If I look for the word Ole, okay. Is the 16th, is that one up to date, Gabe? Hopefully. Let's give it a go. Mr. Gabe Maynor, the brain that powers Mississippi Live Weather behind the scenes there. There we are. Man, look at that. Look at that. 61 first play temperature. That's about as good as you're going to get. So for folks looking ahead toward that, warm and mainly dry conditions, the stories as far as that is concerned there. So excited about that. Now, Gabe, I see your monitor back there has gone black back behind you. Are we good on that? Or is that just the Storm Chasers feed going in and out?
Storm Chasers feed, but as you can see, I mean, blinding rainfall down where, I can't remember if this or not. I got to look at who is up right now, and I'm sure they'll message me here in a moment. But yeah, tough conditions to drive in tonight with the nighttime falling in, and you have the rainfall and some of those headlights and taillights reflecting off of some of those raindrops. So we want to make sure that folks stay safe. If it's severe or not, it is going to contain some heavy rainfall at some of those rates above an inch in some spots of these storms. So we want to make sure that people drive safe. If you can, just stay off the roads until 9 or 10 o'clock this evening, and then you're in pretty good shape beyond that point, Matt. Very excited about the extended forecast, but we do have a few more storms we're working through before we're saying that we're in the all clear.
Absolutely. And speaking of somebody still kind of in those storms, our meteorologist, Caleb Edelblut there, bring him in Oktibbeha County. Sorry I made you stand in the rainfall today. Is the phone still in good shape?
No, you're good. I was actually left work because I saw these storms coming in and decided to go look and see what I could find. And I think it was perfect timing that I was able to come in and cut in and see them. But speaking of kind of getting in the clear, you can kind of see, I don't know if it'll be able to pop up, but starting to see that blue sky as the sun starts to set. So that cloud's starting to break a little bit. Not as breezy or rainy here. Most of that's already blown on through. So starting to see clearer conditions. And the good news was this was occurring during 5 o'clock traffic on Highway 12. Never even got backed up. So conditions still very favorable here in Oktibbeha. And part of that's just due to all the college students pretty much out of here for break. But still looking good here in Oktibbeha.
Oh, man, that's one of the beauties of being a townie, right? Okay.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Definitely a different
we'll go
change
ahead and
of
wrap
pace.
you up and, huh?
Yeah, I was just saying it's a different change of pace with them gone over the break in the traffic. So,
yeah, absolutely. Okay, so you can go and shut down the shot. I appreciate you helping us out today here at 5 o'clock. Let us know if you see anything. If you hear anything damage-wise, anything like that, let us know, all right?
I can do that. Thank y'all.
Thank you. Okay, as we bring back things and reset here for a moment, I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Lawpon. Current time is 5:34. You're watching Mississippi Live Weather, kind of an extended edition of our 5 o'clock broadcast here as we are tracking some isolated showers and thunderstorms out there. I'm just kind of monitoring our chats on Facebook, on YouTube as well. When you say something behind the scenes here, we are looking at that. Myself, our meteorologist Gabe Maynor, who's doing a good job of trying to kind of log the different information people are asking about, and we will talk back and forth with him as well. But as you can see, severe thunderstorm warning still in effect for Oktibbeha and for Noxubee County until 5:45. That is about 10 minutes from where we're at this point here. Latest discussion back and forth from the National Weather Service and North Mississippi Storm Chasers. No reports of any sort of damage in southern Choctaw County. That coming from James and the North Mississippi Storm Chasers there. But Michael saying that traffic on Highway 25 slowing down to about 5 miles per hour related to this when that came through. So clearly either wrecks or just the precipitation certainly slowing a lot of folks down. If we were to assess and ask, is this warning going to be extended? Which is, I think, a fair question to always ask in this situation. Looking at the wind mode, I do see some areas where I have decent wind gusts. That's not shocking. That is kind of to be expected in this situation here. But even if I look at this not just from Monroe County, but I look from the Jackson radar site there, which is kind of more at the edge of the radar range. We show mainly just broad rotation. We don't show a ton of a lower level strong rotation there, because even where you're starting to see, again, some of those bright greens on that, we're showing that we're more than 3,000 feet above the surface. And if you have 5,280 feet in a mile, that's over half a mile up in the air, right? So we should expect it to be fairly windy up there, and so strong enough winds to cause some issues. But I think one of the ways in which we can also assess this is looking at what we call echo tops. How tall is the thunderstorm? A taller thunderstorm tends to be a stronger one. And what's interesting is this one that's southwest of Louisville is now the stronger of our storms. In fact, of our 3 storms, if you look at the height of it, that's probably the tallest we have in the entire area at this point. I'm going to correlate that, check that versus our site down there in Jackson. And again, yeah, that one is the strongest looking one on that. So football fans know I love this reference. I'm going to use it again today. You know, the question is, if you have 3 quarterbacks, do you have a quarterback, or do you just have 3 also runs, right? You either have a quarterback or you don't. And so the good news is we're on like the 3rd storm. We're like, oh, I've got to watch this one. Got to watch it real close. And that's a good thing. That means we haven't had the bogey so far today. And so we're on the next one that kind of looks like it could sort of be something that has some rotation with it. Then we look at shear, has a little bit of shear. I'd say the storm up north, it looks a little healthier on that. But I guess this one's somewhat taller. And so that kind of enhances. Yeah, I do see some very broad rotation related to that there. Behind the scenes, I know our meteorologist Gabe Maynard continues to watch power outage situation there. I'm going to bring him in to kind of talk with us about that here for a second. And Gabe, we haven't had a lot. I'm not chuckling, but you found one. Is that one?
3. 3
Is
outages.
That it?
That's all. Well, this is in
Altogether?
Itawamba County. And let me tell you why I'm looking over there. So whenever we were tracking these storms, of course, up north, we're not talking about tornadic development. But up north, there was almost a collapsing of one of those storms that might have produced some strong wind gusts just east of Fulton around the Tremont area. So that area specifically was what I was trying to look at to see if there was any power outages that verified what looked like may have been happening aloft. And so I was trying to look at that a little bit more in detail, but looking at current outages across the area, we do currently have, let me make sure this number is correct, about 397. Let me see if I can get to the entire state. I'm going to have to see if I can do that up here. Yeah, so 1,245 outages. A big one that's showing up is Neshoba County. As you can see, 246 outages. That's over the last 30 minutes or so. That's that storm that has had that broad rotation, had the severe thunderstorm warning attached to it. Nothing has been produced so far, at least not that we can verify, but you're still tracking those strong winds. So strong winds causing some of these outages, maybe the occasional lightning strike, but as Caleb was talking about a moment ago, this is not an electric setup. Yes, the occasional lightning strike is possible, but not one that's going to experience multiple outages. So Neshoba County stands out. As we track the rest of the area, Winston County still at 0, Choctaw County only about 9, Atala County 5, Tallahatchie County, and this is something I want to get into in just a moment as well, 236 outages, and that's pretty much brand new. Tate County, as we tracked a moment ago, or sometime during the 5 o'clock broadcast, 397 outages. So these sporadic outages are taking place, and that's that secondary line that's rolling on through. While that secondary line, we're not exactly looking at a prime tornadic environment, still those strong gusty winds in an already saturated area could knock down a few of those power lines, and that's where, one transformer could be responsible for multiple houses. So that could be, there's a good strike right there. Let's hope that wasn't a power outage too. But one of those big things that we're watching is, how many of these power lines get knocked down, how many folks are affected, and Tallahatchie, the most recent addition to a growing number as that secondary line builds in.
Okay, it's our meteorologist Gabe Maynard again watching power outages. And as you referenced a second ago here behind me, do have a shot from the Oxford area, do show a bit more lightning on that storm there. We're still 63 for that temperature, and dew point still around 61. So we've really yet to get into the drier and cooler air. And you can see kind of the radar on the edge there, kind of looking back into that. There will be a bit of lightning. I'm going to go back on the other side of that, though, and I don't know that the reporting station will have updated there in Batesville, back in Panola County. So on the backside, obviously, a lot less visibility is because you're back into the rainfall there Give me a second, Batesville. Let's take a look at what direction we are looking on this here, because we're zoomed in fairly close. So let's look back out here a little bit more to the east. So give me just a moment as that kind of goes back this direction here, looking deeper into it. So I mean, that's obviously the direction the rain is moving off to. So it just looks wet and dark. Not a ton of lightning strikes with this there. Again, appreciate the good folks at North Mississippi Storm Chasers for partnering with us to utilize all these cameras around the area. And Pontotoc, again, also kind of between it, there's kind of a mid-round batch of thunderstorms as well. Let's see if that one's going to update there. Interesting. Let me pull that off here for a second so we can kind of show you. Again, we're in here close around Monroe County. We'll look at that in a second, but I was looking at Pontotoc. I think we're still kind of looking sort of the west out of that shot there. The stuff closer to Okolona, when we look at the wind mode here, is not particularly impressive. Neither is kind of that last batch there as well. Still good to have some gusty winds with it, but not huge and super impressive there. So I want to come in here closer to northern Monroe County. We were in Smithville. I think while Gabe was talking a minute ago, I don't know if I ever made air here, but I was looking at the camera, kind of swinging it around the Smithville area. Heavy rainfall with that storm through Smithville, but still kind of looking back toward the west. Looks like at least some kind of flashing yellow lights from someone there in the foreground. 62 the temperature in the Smithville area at this point. I point that out because we're kind of looking at the just general shape of this thunderstorm here. Just looking at the wind. I mean, I have some limited rotation, but I would say more than anything, it's probably just gusty winds out of that thunderstorm there moving eastward. So let's get a track on that. Again, Gabe, I'm going to bring you on here for a second. Have you checked that speed recently on that? Kind of checking the...
You know, I did just about probably 10 minutes ago, and it was still measuring about 35 miles an hour, so maybe coming down. I still think 40 is a good bet, because if this were to speed up at all, then we will cover those areas that could be impacted. So giving more of a heads up, I would rather that happen than giving not enough time. So I think 40 miles an hour is still a good bet on this system.
Okay.
And whenever you have a second, once you track that out, if you want to come back, I do have the area that's affected in Tallahatchie. That's going to be for folks in Glendora. That's that outage where 235 customers are affected in one of the concentrated locations. Oh, okay. Well, sweet. I was going to let you track that first, but I appreciate it. So bringing it back here, this is Glendora. They're in the southern half of Tallahatchie County. As you can see, all of that red showing up for folks up there north. That's about 235 outages that are currently being reported. That is east of Highway 49 east. And so that continues to grow, and folks are at Entergy are addressing that and hopefully get that resolved here shortly. If we jump down south, Entergy also reporting a few outages there west of Greenwood. It's not a lot. It's about 2 outages affecting about 11 customers. So we're continuing to address that. I know folks over there in Greenwood, they're with Entergy, hoping to get that addressed as well here pretty shortly. That is right along Highway 49, a little bit north of Highway 82. So that's the outages we have so far, but I do expect that to grow, unfortunately, as we head into the next couple of hours. Just hopefully it grows minimally rather than exponentially.
Yeah, absolutely. That's hopefully the goal there. And so here's that track we were referencing a moment ago. Non-severe storms up here, still under a tornado watch technically in Monroe, in Lamar, Marion, Itawamba, Franklin counties up here. So again, through the Smithville area of this batch at this point, we're looking at Hamilton there, about 559, Hamilton, Alabama. Detroit, 552. Splunge at 458, though. Bexar, 456. So pretty close to right now as that works its way again toward the east there. I should say 446 Bexar there. Gatman, 601. Cruz, Soligent, around 610 to 614 or so there. Beaverton, about 617 as that kind of continues to work its way eastward. Let's go ahead and reset things here for a moment. I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Lawpon, alongside our meteorologist Gabe Maney. You're watching live coverage here of thunderstorms. Now, what are these? Most are not going to produce severe weather. Let's be crystal clear. Hopefully we've said that a bunch. But most are not going to be severe. Now, I do see Felicia at 40 after. So we're about 5 minutes ago. I just happened to see this comment a second ago saying, Matt, what about dangerous storm approaching your area? Now, one of the cool things about the app is it does have the ability to kind of see pre-severe information. Now listen, you can have a dangerous storm that has a lot of lightning, but does not produce damaging winds or hail or tornado. So that dangerous storm, and there's also another one that says twisting storm. Those two alerts are kind of pre-severe sort of alerts. They're more likely to have false alarms. So there will be times you get a twisting storm, nothing happens, right? No tornado warnings, nothing happens. There'll be times you get a twisting storm and it gets upgraded to a severe thunderstorm warning and tornado warning. So those are some early alerts. So if you can palate getting, what is this? Why is this coming in? Sort of alerts that don't pan out. Those are some things in there. We left that in. I debated pulling it out because, again, it's not an official alert from the National Weather Service, from the government. It's not an official push that I'm looking at, but it is something that Mississippi Live Weather Radar is kind of assessing some of that shear. It's like, maybe there's something here. It triggers that alert on the phone. So it's kind of an early heads up. There are a few of those in there. I apologize. We're going to figure out whether or not it makes sense to do those a long time. But you know, that's certainly what we're doing now. I do see Kim also asking about suspenders. Every one of my suits has suspenders on it. I'm not sure Gabe's everyone, but I think a lot of his do as well. North Mississippi storm chasers out there continuing to kind of monitor things again on the road this evening. Gabe, I think your microphone is up as well. Do we know who we have here?
Still trying to nail that down, to be honest. But hopefully folks at the North Mississippi Storm Chasers, they let me know here shortly.
But probably still Adrian, I'm assuming.
I would assume so. But I know Stan was out there talking about a few of these storms. I think he's headed back home. But yeah, just continue to look at a soggy night for some spots with that heavy rainfall still coming down. I got to look at the exact location on this too. But this is pretty much the case for a large part of us here in North Mississippi tonight.
Okay, appreciate that, Gabe. Also double check on weather pictures. We can look at that here in a moment as well. So we're bringing back here to Mississippi Live Weather Radar starting south. Current time is 5:48. What has changed? Severe thunderstorm warning was in effect for locations out here in Winston, Noxubee, parts of Oktibbeha, and just south of Lowndes County. That has been allowed to expire. Rotation possible was the tag on that before. They have gone ahead and allowed that to expire. Partially because the thunderstorms just don't look as impressive. I mean, and you don't need to be a meteorologist to nail this one down. Let's go ahead and make this 1 minute data here, and we will go back, and you can tell, hey, say back when that was originally issued out here, closer to 4:48, about an hour ago, one solid storm there, rotation, definitely possible, probable, and now it's largely kind of fallen apart. Maybe the north part there, just south of US 82, is a little more impressive. We've got another one down here toward Macon. And we do have two warnings just on the fringes of the area. One down here toward Philadelphia. Did have somebody asking in the comments on that one a minute ago. That one, again, below tornado producing limits. There's some wind with that there. As we check our site down there out of the Jackson radar site, there's just these little mini sort of storms that have a little bit of rotation with them. I mean, listen, that has some rotation. So is the one in Philadelphia. So is the one up here closer to Macon. Some of these others up here. But honestly, it's way below any kind of reasonable tornado producing limit. Things can change, but as we talked about, every minute we move into the evening diminishes our tornado potential because we lose heating. We had just enough heating and instability in fuel to maybe something gets strong, and now every minute going forward, it hopefully there's less and less fuel to work off of there. So positive sign. Time is on our side in this case. Let's come closer to Lowndes County. I kind of alluded to this a minute ago here. We'll check our camera there in the Columbus area. We'll have one in both Columbus and Gabe. If you'll make sure Caledonia is pointed toward the southwest, we'll look at that. I say one in Columbus. We've got a lot of Mississippi Department of Transportation cameras there in the Columbus area that we utilize. And it's just heavy rainfall at all of these cameras. A lot of times during severe weather, this is my favorite one that we tend to show more often because we can from time to time see in lightning strikes something more significant. I don't have anything out there like that now, but we do have, again, some pretty good gusty wind coming across the roadway there with all those cars moving through. I'll step to this side for a second. Again, we're looking live in Columbus, Mississippi Department of Transportation camera there with all the traffic moving down the highway at kind of full speed ahead. Certainly I would be slowing down a little bit. Wet roadways, most wrecks happen in that situation here. And so we do have at least a little bit of a cross breeze there, about 20, 25 miles per hour. So you can see wind sustained at about 16 miles per hour. As we bring up that camera there in the Caledonia area, kind of looking back into this, we're looking from farther away, but higher up. And hopefully maybe we have kind of a little bit of a shot there as we look back toward this from, we're looking more south, southeast, just a little bit, maybe an easterly component on that. Unfortunately, the reason you saw it pop there is it updated the latest frame. For a moment, it kind of hangs on the last frame the last time we checked it and then comes back. So updated frame, again, just wet, not a lot of lightning out of that shot. A good sign there. So we kind of widen things out here on Mississippi Live Weather Radar. Again, that's moderate rainfall, the main impacts with that. We do have these thunderstorms coming in here closer to Shannon and Houston. Again, these below severe limits. I know we have some folks in the comments asking about these as well. This is just moderate rainfall. Looking at the wind here, nothing that's overly impressive. Looking at the severe threats, you can see while this, again, peak threat does say maybe some hail, if we kind of get into the good thing here, the kind of is what discriminates between maybe and actually. You can see here on our hail threat brought to you by True Shield Roofing, the processing, we kind of let the computer do its thing. We don't show any hail potential really out of that batch there as well. And these spots where we had it before is where, you know, it said maybe in the worst case scenario, and thankfully that's not the case. We're not in probable, we're not in likely on any of this there as far as that's concerned. So back here to Mississippi Live Weather Radar, and again, looking at the camera there in Tupelo, again, we're probably in the midst of quite a bit of heavy rainfall, so I don't know that we're going to have, actually, it should be just south, so hopefully that helps us out a little bit here. A decent amount of lightning out of that, and I've heard some rumbles here at the house as well. Again, temperature coming in 63 degrees, that dew point 61. I'm telling you this, with everything we have out there today, if that number right there in Tupelo were, say, 66, we'd have severe thunderstorms. But because it's not, that certainly has helped us out a lot in this case, and hopefully continues to be the case going forward through the evening. Back here to Mississippi Live Weather Radar, again, just the showers do have, again, these are largely just showers, because if I zoom in close enough to just get one of these, when you have 9 lightning strikes, that's not a lot of lightning to work off of. And that's part of the reason why so many of your pictures have just been clouds. I'm going to bring our meteorologist Gabe Maynor in here again, looking at some of your weather photographs sent in using the Mississippi Live Weather app. And Gabe, just dark clouds, it looks like, from what I've seen you behind the scenes looking at.
Yeah, some menacing clouds there in South Haven. That is submitted by Jennifer in the South Haven area before that second line of storms work their way on through. So don't be surprised if you get some of those dark clouds moving in once again as that second and final round pushes into North Mississippi. But appreciate Jennifer for submitting this photo. And again, if you have any pictures, even if it's just of the sky, you know, we appreciate that here at Mississippi Live Weather. Oftentimes people just want the golden shot of a tornado or the damage afterwards. Well, we appreciate all the pictures that you guys submit because it shows us eyes in the skies. Again, we call you guys weather watchers for a reason. You're a part of our team here at Mississippi Live Weather. Now, I did get confirmation that this is Adrian's stream. He's working north out of Noxubee County into Lowndes County, so it makes sense why it's blinding rainfall there on the windshield. But Adrian, safe out there driving. I think that so far he's been unimpressed by anything that he's seen there in Lowndes County, so hopefully that continues to be the case. And hopefully we continue to remain on a weakening trend heading into the rest of our night. I do hear rumbles of thunder here in the Room to Room Weather Center, so things are picking up here in the studio. But yeah, we're talking about not a lot of lightning, and lightning said, well, watch this. So I guess that's starting to get a little bit more rumbles here at the studio. But Matt, it's been a dreary night, but fortunately not a damaging night. And we're hoping that that continues to be the case. And as of right now, with how the environment is faring, I think that continues to be the case. And again, if you do have any pictures of whether it's a lightning strike, some clouds, some heavy rainfall, I love seeing the rain gauges as well, maybe getting some of those reports, but go ahead and submit those through the Mississippi Live Weather app. Another thing that we've been pushing, especially during the holiday season for Christmas gifts or anything like that to keep folks safe, is Weather Call. Here, partnering with Mississippi Live Weather, Matt gives you guys a call for any tornadoes, calls back once again once it's confirmed. So if you're looking to maybe head to bed a little early tonight, we don't expect this threat to go into the nocturnal stages, but If you were maybe in Alabama tonight and you're hoping to go to bed and it's a little too late for you and you are debating whether or not to go to sleep, well, Weather Call is the best way to stay informed and stay safe as you get into those late night hours. So it calls for severe thunderstorms, so probably gotten a few calls issued tonight depending on where you're at. Also for major flooding and tropical warnings. So go ahead and download Weather Call today. $15 a year, $15 to save a life. I don't know about you, but doing Christmas shopping, things are expensive. You can't find anything for $15 a year. So go ahead and have that today. Partner with us and partner with Weather Call so that way you can stay informed and stay safe as severe weather continues to roll through North Mississippi. And this time of year, we're not even in the peak of severe weather coverage. The occasional severe weather day is possible, hence why we're live right now. But heading into that spring season, that's where we expect more of those severe weather situations to happen. And having Weather Call a little bit in advance will definitely be beneficial come that time. But Matt, we talk about layers of protection, building your armor, and that's going to be with Weather Call. That's going to be with the Mississippi Live Weather app. Code Red whenever it gets up and going, and I did look for an update that they have not had an update so far on whether or not Code Red is back up and running, looking for a backup option. So we're hopeful that can happen soon.
Absolutely. Appreciate that, Gabe, our meteorologist, Gabe Maynard there. Again, talking about, some of the important things, the things we have to kind of plan for the worst case scenario. We've luckily been very fortunate so far this season to not really have a lot in the way of severe weather. Checking power outages again. We have not had a ton of power outages across the region. Just checking the numbers here though. And I'm gonna have to pull off our warnings. Give me a moment so we get an accurate look at that. And again, a few spots out here in the Delta where we've had some of those, like Tallahatchie County, we show about 200 up there, closer to Tate County, about 300 power outages. Couldn't hurt, Gabe, to just check to make sure Maggie has some power back there as well. Power just went out in Oxford at Ashton's house. Ashton, one of the storm chasers that we've utilized in the past around the region. So, there's at least some sporadic power outages out there ongoing as well this evening. But let's bring it back here to the rainfall mode on Mississippi Live Weather Radar. We do, again, a couple things that we're going to be balancing. So coming up here in about a minute, we're going to start our 6 o'clock broadcast here. And what we're going to be looking at, again, some of your weather pictures as those are coming in. As you heard from Caleb, the worst part through there. And we do have a new warning on the fringe of the Mississippi Live Weather area that we are tracking. Where is that and what kind of impacts are they seeing? We're going to take a brief break here and rejoin you again with continuous coverage as Mississippi Live Weather at 6 begins here in.
When choosing a dentist for our family, Tupelo Smiles was the answer for us. They greet us with warm smiles right when we walk in the door, and they make us feel so welcome. We love Tupelo Smiles.
At First Choice Bank, we know you can't always make it before the...
The number one reason insurance denies roof claims, it's not what you think. Insurance companies aren't denying your claim because you don't have damage. They're denying it because they don't have documentation. This is why we use drones, AI technology, satellite imagery, and just good old roofing experience to document everything that might be wrong with your roof. You as a homeowner need a roofer with documentation standards. Call Absolute Restoration. Let us come and inspect, document, and present.
Mississippi's trusted weather experts. This is Mississippi Live Weather at 6.
Tornado watch remains in effect for some locations across northeast and east Mississippi until 9 p.m. I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Lawpon alongside our meteorologist Gabe Maynard. You're watching Mississippi Live Weather at 6 here from the Room to Room Weather Center. We've been tracking these storms, and as we have said earlier, and as we've said over and over, most will not produce tornadoes, and so far none have done it. And a thing that I think a lot of us are very thankful for. More on that here in just a moment as I'll kind of bring this in to show the whole area. We do have severe thunderstorm warnings on the fringe of the area, both up here for locations toward Colbert, as well as Lauderdale counties up in Alabama, and then south for Kemper County. New severe thunderstorm warning issued for you until 6:45 p.m. as well. So again, as we begin our broadcast here this evening, what we're talking about, again, a few things. First off, Again, the severe weather threat and that tornado watch that we referenced a moment ago there in effect until 9 p.m. But I think once this line, this primary line, this initial line moves through, the threat diminishes substantially. A front will sweep in behind it, shoving all the moisture out of here, and then that threat is done. Cooler air follows that front, and between now and Christmas, there's only one real decent drop in temperatures. That will come with this front, and that will be tomorrow. That will be the coolest day, and then early Saturday morning. That does mean, as we look toward the forecast for Alabama and Ole Miss, of course, two different playoff games there, two completely different locations. I think in both cases, we're hopefully dry, but vastly different when you take into account temperatures and wind and all those other sorts of things. More on that here in just a moment. As we look at the first 12 here, again, we're at the peak of our rain and storm coverage now. That will diminish more as we head into the evening. As you can see, by 10 p.m., we're only 10% on that rain coverage there, 48 that temperature then. We're 42 by 1 o'clock in the morning, 35 by 4 a.m., and low 30s, again, down below freezing, but you factor in the wind. And again, last day for a lot of those kids to go to school in this winter, or I guess this fall semester, because technically we're not winter yet. But before we go to winter break, that way of describing it, it's going to be cold tomorrow morning. We'll look at those wind chill temperatures coming up here in a couple of moments. On Mississippi Live Weather Radar, again, the ignition point for these thunderstorms here is again, this front kind of moving through the area. As that kind of moves in from the north and west, drier air will come in behind that there. And so that will kind of ignite the storms along the leading edge here. But after that, with a lack of moisture, we're going to have a lot less in the way of active weather and storms and things of that nature for quite a few days. In fact, as you can see behind it there, while there is some snowfall, some things like that, it's way back to the north and west, very far removed. One of the many signs that, again, this is kind of a one and done scenario as far as storms are concerned for tonight and for really the next couple of days. So let's look at Futurecast on the broad scale, and then we'll bring in a lot closer here in a minute. One thing you'll note, again, that line kind of moving through the area and all the moisture mainly out of here, not just here, but across the region, with a line of, again, stronger thunderstorms showing up there into Alabama by around 10 p.m. As we go past midnight, drier air from the north and west continues to plow into and through the region. And as that fully settles into our area, we clear it off enough that tomorrow morning is really pretty cold. Wind chills, probably 20s to begin the day. So for the next 24, we start off at 33 at 6 a.m. with 37 by 9 a.m., 46 by noontime, and in the upper 40s. That's it, meaning even in the afternoon, you can make a legitimate argument that it never feels above around 45 to 48 degrees for a lot of locations on these west and northwest winds. But see how quickly they start shifting to the south? That will start bringing in milder conditions as far as temperatures are concerned, and that'll be a warm-up for the weekend. It just takes getting fully into the weekend before that happens. Coming up in 60 seconds, we're looking at the latest on Mississippi Live Weather Radar, tracking those storms that are out there now, breaking down your forecasts as we go toward, of course, SEC football. We have two big playoff matchups that begin as the playoffs get going this weekend. That and looking toward Christmas as Mississippi Live Weather continues from the Room to Room Weather Center right after this.
Enjoy your home for the holidays with store-wide savings at Room to Room. 50% off, 48-month special financing, and as our gift to you, a free accessory buyer's card. There's something here for everyone, including gift cards. Merry Christmas from Room to Room Tupelo.
When choosing a dentist for our family, Tupelo Smiles was the answer for us. They greet us with warm smiles right when we walk in the door, and they make us feel so welcome. We love Tupelo Smiles.
As a bankruptcy firm, Mitchell, Cunningham, and Bowling realizes many people are worried about their finances. We're here to guide you through the next steps to restart your life with easy video appointments. New clients don't have to leave home to get information about becoming debt-free. Also, convenient in-office appointments are available at the low cost of $340 upfront for a Chapter 13. You can be on your way to being debt-free. Contact Mitchell, Cunningham, and Bowling today or visit our website at mcdebtfree.com. We are here to help you.
This portion of Mississippi Live Weather is presented by Little's Jewelers.
Right now, from the Room to Room Weather Center, here's Mississippi's Chief Meteorologist, Matt Lovhawn.
In the Edinburgh area, we join you this evening with a shot there from the North Mississippi Storm Chaser, 64 the temperature. You've been in and out of those warnings down there over the last little bit here, and just up the road in Macon, you have largely avoided them at this point in time. Our camera there showing up dark, not a lot of lightning strikes over the last little bit here. That's been the story on a lot of these storms. You're watching Mississippi Live weather here at 6 o'clock. I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Lawpon alongside our meteorologist Gabe Maynor. Gabe has been tracking a lot of things here behind the scenes as well. You've been looking in particular at power outages. I know you're checking a bunch of these different outage centers. There's a lot of ways we can use poweroutage.us, but you know, checking these local cooperatives certainly yields better results. How are the power outage situation showing up as of 6:05?
Well, currently trying to look over there in Oxford, and as you can see behind me, there's a big reason why. All of the outages that are currently on the west side of Oxford and moving up into the northwest side of Lafayette County, right around Sardis Lake, that's what we're watching for, as multiple outages have been reported. And the folks over there at Northeast Mississippi Electric Power Association hoping to address this here in the next couple of hours. As we work our way north into Marshall County, getting a few more of those reports out of the Malone, and I believe that's the Waterford community, if I remember correctly. Yes, so Waterford community, a lot of outages reported right along Highway 7 and working our way southeast into the Bethlehem area. So reports coming up, reports building, and yeah, checking the local areas, that's the best way to go about it because they update those a little bit sooner than poweroutage.us. But as we look at the bigger picture, and let me drag it out right here, you can see multiple outages, multiple spots we're paying attention to, including Tate County, Tallahatchie County, Neshoba County, and as far south as just around the Jackson area. So the entire Magnolia State dealing with outages this Thursday evening.
Absolutely, you know, and it's luckily sporadic and not worse than that. Oxford, at least our camera there with North Mississippi Storm Chaser still has visibility at this time. We're 55. Notice a difference there from last hour, right? Where we had that temperature in the 60s. The dew point was in the 60s as well. That is that sharp drop in temperatures that's on the way behind this front after it fully moves kind of through the area. One of the things that we've been tracking the last couple days here in the Room to Room Weather Center is how cold the front will be behind this here. If I step out of the way, you can see on the corner of the screen, we have embedded there the radar image showing up, and that radar image shows us again some of the showers, again mainly to the east of the Oxford area, because after that front moves through, and that's where the showers are along that front, then you're going to have that cooler and drier air that fully kind of settles into the region. We are watching, though, the most closely locations down here in particular Kemper County under a severe thunderstorm warning until 6:45 p.m. just on the southern fringe of the Mississippi Live weather viewing area. Checking our radar sites there, a couple different ones. We show some broad rotation on this. Just unimpressed largely with what we are seeing as far as that's concerned. Maybe a couple wind gusts, 45, 55, 60 is not impossible, but I just don't think most of the strong winds are making it down to the surface. Giving you kind of a generalized storm track of the most impressive part. Again, rain will start before this. It's this part on the backside that we're most concerned has a little bit of that broad rotation with it. We show Moscow about 617 there. We're looking closer to Mount Nebo at 626. DeKalb there at 633, Townsend 641, Akron about 643, and Scuba about 650 as that moves kind of toward the east at about 40 miles per hour, which has been kind of the general speed we've had from time to time today. We do have tornado watches, everybody in blue here, under tornado watches into this evening and the first part of the overnight time period here. That's what the alerts are. We see this. And again, while we still have Fulton and Itawamba County, or down there Monroe County, Clay, Oktibbeha, Choctaw, Winston County is all involved in this. As I show the radar on top of this once again, I would say honestly, everything, I think we're probably in the clear here for most of Oktibbeha County. It would take something pretty spectacular for this batch here to produce a tornado out of this. I think that's highly unlikely. But if you're out here in advance, east of Macon, down there around Neshoba County, back out here toward Lowndes County, up toward Marion, Lamar, and Franklin and East, yeah, much more likely to have some issues with this. But even there, I don't think there's a high likelihood. Kind of clear off those warnings, bring it back into Macon here for a moment. Again, showing that heavy rainfall out of this batch of thunderstorms here, and put this on a 30-minute loop to show the evolution. And I think just from the eyeball test, you can see how these storms don't necessarily look better than they did before. We do have, again, I'm going to watch this one up toward Columbus a little closer for a second. It's kind of got my attention for just a moment. Hold on a second here. It's interesting. Actually, this one is a little more interesting. There's just no lightning strikes on it, right? 3 over the last half hour is just not much. I see a very active group chat going on there behind the scenes for Mississippi Live Weather. Make sure we're good there. Gabe, bring your audio up behind the scenes here in a moment, so you give me more on those power outage situation. I'm gonna get a storm track and assess this one a little bit closer before we do that. I do show some broad rotation over top of Columbus related to this storm here. Just the shape of this catches my eye. It does have kind of a little bit of a supercellular sort of shape. If I were just to draw the outline around it there, that's generally speaking what we expect one of those to look like. It's pretty small though. Let's see. I mean, we're 7 miles that direction. 15, 20. That's not that. I'd call that an LP supercell. Before we get in that, I don't see anything from the storm chasers on this one here. I don't know if they're on that as well, but I would say that you're gonna have to watch this one to see how it progresses, because this is like the long-lived one that previously prompted some of the warnings before on the north side, right? Yep, sure enough, it is. Let me get on this side here. So let's backtrack that there. It's kind of separated from the line. This one's actually kind of interesting here. Okay, so heads up, southern Lamar, northern Pickens County, eastern Lowndes County. I do have some rotation starting to show up on that. Now the storm chaser's talking about that as well. The storm's starting to tighten up as well. So they're kind of seeing it at the same time here. Let's look back here at the wind a couple different ways. We do have our shear markers on, and that early look has not popped up with that as well. Let's look at the instantaneous shear, the rotation on this. That's a little bit, but not a lot, and not overly strong. So again, still kind of developing. Okay, so I'm going to track that particular portion of this that's right over top of Columbus. Actually, I wonder if the camera, I think we're a little too late to catch the camera there. Even if when we first start talking about it, we've probably been a little too late. Give it a second for this to start populating in. You know, that's what we were, at the beginning of the show, when we were looking for the rain kind of shooting across the road pretty quickly, I guess at the end of the 5 o'clock there, that's what we're seeing. Nothing impressive on any of these cameras at this moment, but that dew point at 64 in the latest update just a couple of minutes ago here. You know, that's just borderline. If that were 66, 67, I think our tornado potential on this would be a lot higher. In saying that, I'll just use the eyeball test here really quickly, and I mean, I don't know that we're going to get this all the way to produce a tornado, but that's decent looking. So let me widen this out, and so we get about 35 mile per hour track on that. So if this were to do something like that, this is about the time frame we're looking here. Steen 6:19 for you, 6:13 current time. Melbourne about 6:30, Fernbank 6:36 there. Millport at 6:42, Kingville at 6:49, and Kennedy at 6:53. Hey, listen, so let's talk about this. Nothing has been issued, but it's been a long time since we've talked about safe place sort of stuff. Unless you're watching us today, we've talked a little bit about it, but let's just make sure that we know where that is, just in case something goes a little sideways with this here. So a sturdy structure, middle of the lowest floor, a place where you can wrap up in blankets and pillows, put on a helmet to protect yourself in case there's some kind of debris, if this were to take that step, and stay there until we can give you the all clear. Looking at Adrian from the Storm Chasers, he's south. You pull up that camera again there, Gabe, behind you, if you would. And then I'll kind of bring you in here for a moment. See Adrian's shot there. He mentioned that whatever circulation it was in Macon just went just a little in front of him there. Anything you're seeing on the camera of interest? Oh, sorry. Put it on my pick. Let's send it to Gabe over there.
Nothing on my end except for the fact that the rain has subsided a bit, so it looks like a little bit of a drier forecast, still some slick roadways, but yeah, nothing of note so far. But Adrian, of course, keeping eyes behind the scenes on that cell, and I'll keep eyes on it behind the scenes here as well. I do want to say with that, and while you're here, we can talk about it. This was a viewer submitted picture. This from Santana. As
Whoa.
I drag it in, yeah, lightning. Few strikes, but some of those strikes pretty impactful. So this, of course, this is in the Holka area, striking that tree line, and from what I've heard, no damage or nothing of that matter, or nothing significant has been reported so far, but that is a significant strike that reached all the way to the ground and hopefully didn't cause too much of a fire out there. But so far from Santana, everything is okay. But that's the type of stuff we're dealing with. It's not an active or energetic night, Matt, but some of the stuff
That's
can be
energetic.
impactful. That is energetic for sure.
Yeah, that is your word when it comes to lightning, isn't it? Energetic.
Well, yeah, I feel like it's a good description. It energized those trees, that's for sure. So,
yeah, in the worst possible way. I appreciate that, Gabe. Again, as we bring back here onto the Mississippi Live weather radar, just kind of watching this line up here north toward Hamilton. It's fairly sporadic on that. I don't have a whole lot of good wind areas there of concern, thankfully, but certainly going to have to keep watching that north part there. We're going to take a brief break. We're going to go really in depth on that storm down there around Columbus. Typically, we dive into the whole forecast. We're going to take a quick break here while we have a moment and be right back after this as we're looking through. If you do have, again, reports here, see some folks ask about near Columbus Air Force Base. Jennifer, we're looking at that for you here in 60 seconds as Mississippi Live weather continues right after this.
Give the gift of a delicious burger from Bulldog Burger. A soup and sandwich from Sweet Pepper's Deli. Appetizers and cocktails from the Grill. Or even a wood-fired steak from Harvey's. Choice is the perfect gift. An all-in-one gift card from Eat With Us.
We come from a long line of farmers, and there's a sense of pride, but there's also a significant amount of pressure.
Farmers have to take care of their physical and their mental health, because what's a farm without a farmer?
Watching the sun come up, that's my time. I can have a cup of coffee, and every day is a new opportunity.
That's cool. Your hand's gotten so Yay!
Don't forget to check in on yourself. Love your mind.
If you're a family of 4, 5,
or 6, 7,
Merry Christmas
from Mississippi Live weather.
That was good.
I think that was the one.
Okay.
There we go.
Oh, you guys didn't do it.
No, we didn't. Oh, Gabe Maynard there, but Matt Lawpon here as we're tracking some showers and thunderstorms. You're looking out of Caledonia live here on Mississippi Live Weather at 6. I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Lawpon. Our North Mississippi Storm Chasers camera looking back toward the south-southeast. Again, a lot of rain, not a lot of lightning on this viewpoint there, but we are looking toward one of the stronger thunderstorms we've had today. An interesting look, certainly has some rotation to it. Is it enough rotation to produce tornadoes? I don't know that it's going to be at that threshold there, but this is what we are watching on this. So again, looking here, I still see near Steen's at least broad rotation showing up there on the radar. But when we go to the actual wind mode, and that's kind of the important factor on this, what does it look like when you really poke and prod the radar? And this is not shocking there, but we do have, again, broad rotation, but I don't show anything tight. I don't show anything strong. So still watching it closely for you as we bring it back here to the precipitation mode and tracking that forward. Again, not impossible maybe get a couple of hailstones on the front side of this, but as you can see on a hail track, nothing significant showing up on this hail threat, which is a computation thing that our radar does. And do again appreciate the good folks at True Shield Roofing for sponsoring us here. If we were to have hail in excess of an inch, believe it or not, while we have a captive audience, they are going to be giving away money for that. So the largest hailstone we get on any given day, assuming we actually get hail, take a picture using the Mississippi Live Weather app and send that in. And based on your location that goes along with that, when you send it in, we can check to make sure if it's valid. But you could win $100 from True Shield Roofing. It's kind of a weird, interesting, and I think, frankly, a cool spin on bad weather. Not hoping for hail, but at least if something bad happens, you get something out of it. And appreciate them for being willing to partner with us here on Mississippi Live Weather on our hail detection abilities there. So again, Millport, that's over top of you, building your direction. That's that front part there that might have that rogue. It probably doesn't have much in the way of hail, but certainly really, really heavy rainfall on Alabama Highway 17 moving toward Alabama Highway 96. We show again some heavier rainfall up here with this toward Detroit as we try to check this section here and we look for the wind potential on it. I don't show anything of great significance there. And honestly, if you keep it on the wind mode here, there's really not much out there. Outside of, there's a couple spots here where you see just a little bits of red and green there close to Alabama Highway 168 in Franklin County. But here's the thing, these are so teeny tiny that though the radar says there's some rotation, there's no way those are big enough to produce tornadoes, thankfully, at this point. Weird stuff happens in those Alabama hills as far as weather is concerned, but hopefully not an issue related to that there.
Hey, Matt, real quick,
yes.
I was going to say something. The big thing that I'm noticing with this line is it's almost like they're interacting with the shear axis, because as you can see, all of these cells along that leading edge spin, 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 and they're just interacting with each other, taking all of that energy, and they're not necessarily working together to produce one individual tornado. They're all trying, and there's only so much food to feed them. So I don't really expect anything to be produced because you have so many of those individual cells that are eating at that shear that are not necessarily producing anything significant. I mean, you can see the turning with that cell you were talking about. You work your way up that line, you see about 3 copy and paste of those same cells that are trying but just don't have the energy to do it.
Yeah, you're I see that, what you're saying there. I would argue, I don't think there's enough. While there's enough shear to get them going, they're not growing tall enough to tap in the worst part of that, thankfully. So I think that kind of helps it out. We expected we get these little mini supercells, and that's really taking mini, I guess, to the next level in that regard there. Certainly the case. Appreciate that, Gabe, here. As we kind of bring it back in here on kind of the wider shot, let's get to the rest of your forecast. We've gotten, about 21 minutes into this. We haven't really touched on the rest of your forecast because, again, we are tracking heavy rainfall out of these, but the majority of what we have, again, well below severe limits. So let's look the remainder of this evening. Again, there will be, once this line passes through, this final line here, a big drop in temperatures. That is our cold front moving through that will bring us, again, our pretty significant transition over the next hour or so. So our IMPC school day forecast, only one more school day for tomorrow. Gabe, add that to your list. Our break forecast need to be in there. But we're looking at 32 for that drop-off temperature in the morning. As you can see, mostly clear skies. We'll be much drier behind this. By lunchtime, we're 43, and by the final bell, we're at 48 degrees, a lot colder than today because wind chills, even in the afternoon, are going to be pretty cold. So again, that front moving through, once it's past you, and it's already about all the way almost New Albany, back toward Water Valley. Once it's past, we're done. I do think it's depicted maybe a little bit fast on here. But east of that front, we'll continue to have a few isolated strong severe thunderstorms. That tornado watch does continue until 9 p.m. More of our counties will be canceled out of that soon. It does look like at 15 after, they canceled out a few spots, such as, it does look like Choctaw, Clay, Leak, Oktibbeha, and Winston were allowed to get out of that watch there. But more will probably be coming up here pretty quickly as well as this moves through. So drier air overnight, but that wind remains breezy and those temperatures drop as a result. Look by early tomorrow morning. Actual low temperatures down there in the neighborhood of the low 30s. Wind chills are probably going to be even colder than that once again as well. Expect that wind chill temperatures are going to be down into the upper 20s to begin the day for tomorrow. Hold on. I'm going to go back and we're going to hit wind chills because I think I jumped right past it. Here we are. There are those wind chills in the upper 20s. In some cases, mid-20s. We showed New Albany at 26, 24 there, Holly Springs, Senatobia, where our meteorologist Maggie McCauley is. And she'll have updates with very cold temperatures for tomorrow morning up there, starting at 6:30 a.m. for Mississippi live weather today. As with this morning, tomorrow morning, it's tomorrow at 6:30 a.m. Nailed it. Okay, so clear skies continue to build in with those northwest winds bringing cooler temperatures out of that direction through the day. Dry air and clear skies both also going along with that, as we expect to have the futurecast showing, again, mostly dry conditions even into the afternoon. Wind chill temperatures, though, probably still in the 40s, even if you're lucky enough to cross that 50-degree threshold. So high temperatures expected to be upper 40s and low 50s there. Our winds, again, the big story, but below normal for highs for tomorrow, not just here, but across the entire region. Let's talk Alabama football, because, of course, big game for Alabama tomorrow in the college football playoff. Ole Miss's big game coming the day after that. Kickoff temperature is 54. As we've been talking about the last couple of days, those winds remain very strong out of the south, expected to be very, very windy for that game. Yeah, will that be a factor in it? Absolutely. So looking forward to kind of seeing how that one ends up playing out there. Again, kind of a cool experience, I know, for folks to be able to play the same team again. And it's just so odd that the Ole Miss also gets to pull one of those as well. Of course, more on that coming up here in a moment. We'll get to that forecast here in a second. So Futurecast for your Friday evening, dry and clear. You can see the blue there at the edge of the screen. That's high pressure that's kind of building in, making sure we stay dry, making sure we stay clear into and through your Friday night into early Saturday morning, and under mostly clear skies, expecting another cool start to early Saturday morning as well. So low temperatures, somewhere in the neighborhood of the low 30s again early Saturday, but from there it is up, heading toward that Christmas holiday. We're 35 for the low in Louisville, 37 Belzona. Of course, all eyes on Oxford there, coming in 33 for the beginning temperature. If you're getting out nice and early to do all that tailgating or heading to the Grove, expecting Mother Nature to stay out of those plans. Strike and our HRRR models keeping us dry through midday on your Saturday. But notice our next front coming in, and this one does not have much in the way colder air behind it. More than anything, it's just kind of a little lifting mechanism, and it kind of stalls our warm up for just a brief moment. So as that moves closer, if you look very, very closely, and got to look really closely there, up closer to the Memphis area, our models, just a little bit of green right there, that little speck. Watch how ridiculously close I have to get. That's as much moisture as we're showing there. Not much, obviously. So high temperatures on your Saturday expected to be in the middle 60s to maybe upper 60s. You know, our 30-year average for this time of year, our normal's 55. So big difference between tomorrow, really, really cold, and then much more manageable by your Saturday afternoon. 7-day forecast, I'm going to show you first, and we're going to show you the Ole Miss forecast right after that. But 49 your Friday temperature, we're 62 by Saturday. Rain chances for the weekend, pretty limited, only around 20% or so. And we expect that by next week, we're going 58 by Monday. And then no excuses for men. We're terrible about this. But guys, to get the shopping done. There's no excuse, at least weather-wise, related to that. It is going to be warm. It's going to be dry. Don't tell me it's duck hunting weather. That might be too warm for that. So anyway, a much warmer forecast. Of course, you always can get that 7-day forecast on the 24-hour shower channel on the Mississippi Live weather app. Okay, here's the one that we've kind of teased multiple times here, and we'll come back to radar here in a moment. This is our SEC football forecast brought to you by Carl Hogan Toyota for Tulane and Ole Miss. 61 first play temperature on that. That is about as spectacular as you're ever going to get for any game, pretty much any month of the year. But December, and what some are calling the biggest playoff game in Mississippi history, excited for that. Gabe, I do want to know, is Kohlmeier's video for this ready to go behind the scenes here? We are thumbs up on that. Well, I will let you go ahead and trigger his update on this. Our Will Kohlmeier's been helping us out with sports all year long on Mississippi Live Sports, and he is giving us a preview of this game. What, of course, is a huge game. And then right after that, we're going to come back and we're going to hit the very latest on radar here in a moment. I do want to hit Will's update that he got for us related to this.
Welcome to Kohlmeier's Corner. We continue to hang out here in Oxford as we get ready, as does this campus, for one of the biggest events this state has ever seen, hosting a first round of the college football playoff. It'll be this Saturday afternoon against Tulane. And yes, things have definitely settled down here on this campus after the whole Lane Kiffin drama. He's now off to LSU, and Pete Golden and company, they are getting ready for the Tulane Green Wave. And what a year it has been for the Rebels. 11-1, most wins ever during a regular season. They've never won 11 before. And you know what was really remarkable is that this is a team that had to replace 20 starters from a year ago. And this was supposed to be a rebuilding year, but yet they are the number 6 seed in the college football playoff and getting to host a first round game, which is huge. Folks this week are telling me they're expecting 500,000 people this weekend here in Oxford. Talk about an economic impact. What a boost to the local economy. And it is a tough ticket to get inside that stadium Saturday afternoon at 2:30 in that matchup with Tulane. Now, the American Conference champion Green Wave from New Orleans. Tulane was here earlier this year, and it was not a good result for John Sumrall and company. Of course, Sumrall is not only coaching Tulane this week, but of course, recently he took over the job at Florida as well. So he's working 2 jobs, and he was saying this week that he's getting about 2 hours hours of sleep each night working those two jobs. But anyway, yeah, it was 45-10. Summerall and the Green Wave got beat by Ole Miss back in September. They're hoping for a much closer game this week. Obviously, Tulane is a different team, but you can say Ole Miss is a different team as well. Obviously, the head coach, Lane Kiffin, he is off to LSU, and it's a Louisiana native, Pete Golding, taking over as the head coach. And what an opportunity for Pete Golding. Are you kidding me? Your first job as the head coach, and you're coaching in a college football playoff game? What a big deal for Golding. And, of course, he will have the new LSU offensive coordinator, Charlie Weiss Jr., calling the plays for Ole Miss as long as the Rebels are alive in the playoff. Now, if Ole Miss can win, they'll take on the number 3 seed, Georgia, in the Sugar Bowl on New Year's Day, and that would be yet another rematch. It would be the second rematch in a row for Ole Miss. Remember, they played Tulane during the regular season, and their only loss was at Georgia this year as well, so it would be 2 straight games would be rematches for Ole Miss if they can take care of business inside that stadium Saturday afternoon at Vaught-Hemingway. So don't forget, we'll have more previews this week, but for now, that's the story here in Oxford. We'll send it back to you guys in the studio.
Appreciate that, Will. New update here, and this coming from folks, behind the scenes, talking about some power outages in the Banner community, also some there in the south side of Grenada. New update in the last couple minutes, up to 1,000 power outages there in Grenada County related to this. About 200 just off there toward Tallahatchie County as well. But that 1,000's a pretty good sized number just coming up here in a minute, placing it about 8% of the whole county without power at this instant. We have some other power outages, Banner community, as you can see back toward Eupora, Oxford. They're all much more limited numbers than what we have out there in Grenada County. A slightly greater number also up there, it looks like, closer to, say, Tate County at 2.5%. And we are dealing with, again, some power outages up for Tishmingo and Lamar counties, a slightly greater percentage on some of those, but the total amounts not nearly as significant as the number there in Grenada County. You also see on the screen a new severe thunderstorm warning that's been issued for Franklin County, Alabama as well. So again, a couple different things that we're monitoring here at this time as of now 6:32. Let's bring it back to Mississippi Live Weather Radar, looking at that latest data, and I'll go and clear off all those quarries, as we call them. And we're looking up here toward Vina and Burnt Out there toward around Russellville. As we put this into motion here, make this say, we'll make it a 30-minute loop. We'll make it go nice and slow so we get all the data in there possible. Again, some gusty winds. I'd say the main impact with this there as it kind of rolls towards some of those directions. So we'll bring in the latest scan here. And let's look at the wind mode on this. Again, I show some gusty wind and maybe just the littlest bit of rotation, but more than anything else, again, this is heavy rainfall. This has some lightning, not a ton of lightning strikes. We only have 76 on this shot here. One of those things that we're watching. So let's get a storm track. Again, we're going still about 40 miles per hour on this. Then we'll check on some more weather pictures and some of those power outages from our meteorologist, Gabe Maynor, here in a minute. But we show Atwood there at around 6:35, Dempsey at 6:35, Old Nauvoo is about 6:37. But we're also going toward a Bell Green at 6:42, Duketon at 6:49, Nix at 6:52 there, Russellville 6:53, Spruce Pine 6:57, and Pleasant Ridge about 6:57 as well. I'm bringing in our meteorologist, Gabe Maynor, again. No reports coming from this one that I'm aware of, but what do you have there behind us? Looks like an interesting looking shadow.
Definitely. And this is what, this was submitted by Christina in Clarksdale, Mississippi, letting us know a little bit about the experience. And I do want to read, if I can find it again, her exact experience, but it was basically, here, I can find it right here. Basically formed out of nowhere. It was big at first, like a bunch of smoke and dirt, and then the wind and rain and kind of that rotation that we were talking about started forming fast, and then it sounded like a big 18-wheeler horn. So this was an intense storm. I'm curious, based off of what radar was showing around that time. Of course, this was posted not too long ago, probably not lining up exactly with that time, about an hour ago. So Matt, behind the scenes, if you're able to pull that up, I think that's worth taking a look at, because that's definitely an interesting looking picture. Of course, all eyes being drawn to the distance right there, looking like a funnel. Now exactly confirming that, I can't exactly do that unless radar lines up with it and that tight rotation. But Clarksdale, haven't really seen anything on radar, so I have my doubts whenever it comes to this, but definitely something to take a look at, Matt, as we get further into our forecast tonight. Also going along with that, some of the reports that we're getting out in the field, and that does include our power outages that are over in Grenada, that secondary line, gusty winds. I would argue that some of those are more gusty than that first round of showers and storms. So it's something that you might want to go ahead and secure some of those loose objects if you've not been impacted by that line so far, but also go ahead and charge those phones, charge those devices, because even at the Maynard household, there's no severe weather over there, but my wife letting me know that the power was blinking a few times, so shows that those winds going to be damaging and potentially take out a little bit of that power. So right now, Tallahatchie, we reported on you a moment ago. Tate County, same thing. Now Grenada, the latest to be added to that list, and we expect more to move in as that line progresses across North Mississippi. But Matt, it's definitely packing a punch, severe or not. It's pretty breezy.
Absolutely. And I went back and I looked at that. We're not going to have a good look at that. There is a radar that we don't have access to that's out there toward the Clarksdale area that have a better shot of that. And I'm standing in front of it there. I'll look a little closer. I'll leave you up here for a moment. Listen, like you can get gusts, like there's a thing called a gust NATO, kind of, where right on the gust front. I'm not saying that that's what happened. What time did they say that was?
Not exactly a confirmed time frame, but it was submitted about 5:09. I don't know if that lines up with it, but
yeah, that's not bad. That wouldn't be that far off from that. But I don't have nearly enough here to be able to really confirm or deny anything on that. Let's see if the wind. Yeah, let's see. It's just outside of the reach of the Memphis Tower Doppler weather radars. It's called. And again, we had some areas of that watching again. A little bit of broad rotation, but that might be overstating the case a little bit. Either way, not a ton out there to speak of. Let's see if that.
Well, I don't think we've gotten any damage reports either. So that's also reassuring and kind of agreeing with us on that, because, that picture, it definitely looked a little bit interesting.
It's an interesting looking shot. It's almost too perfectly shaped, though. That's one of the things that I instantly see. I'd have to see that up good and close, and even with you having that full screen. Yeah, go ahead.
Look at that shadow.
It's too perfect.
It goes straight down where you'd almost expect it to be at the base right there. But you can see clear as day that line goes well into the top part of that picture. That would basically mean that funnel would be right over the top, but of course not lining up. So, yeah.
I'm gonna bring it over here. I want to see it full screen for a second, real quick. Not to open a can of worms. No, I don't see a whole lot extended down below that. Hard to say just based off of that picture exactly what we have. I think where that Captain D sign is, lots of heavy rainfall. The rest of it, kind of hard to say on that. But that's part of what makes weather interesting, is trying to figure those sorts of things out. Okay, we'll bring it back here again to Mississippi Live Weather Radar, kind of an update on where things stand at this point here as it kind of populates in all of the data. I have some other behind the scenes sort of things, what we call skits, or just storm information that's shown up here. So there's a lot of different tools that we have still learning to utilize here at Mississippi Live Weather. Exactly which of these. Let's just say this. I have about 10 times as many tools as we had before at the TV station. So trying to figure out which of these makes sense to use and which of them don't make sense to use is going to be a lot of what this first year is about, and knowing when to kind of use those things. So looking at our severe thunderstorm warning out here for Franklin County, Alabama. Still, one of the things that we use there, I've always used, is just looking at the wind mode here. Not a ton of wind, not strong shear, not much in the way of hail on that. So those things, again, some of those things are new and some of those things are not new there as well. But continuing to show, again, heavy rainfall is the main impact with that batch there. So just getting a look at Penny. He's just fine. Okay. Dog came in here because he's a Velcro pet. So say hi, Duke. No, now he's going to go because he got called out. Don't say his name. Let's get track on that. About 40 miles per hour toward the east there. Again, severe thunderstorm warning, Franklin County, Alabama, until 7:30. So Frankfort, we're at about 6:40 for you. Pig Eye at 6:47. Looking toward Nix Mill at 6:54 there. Russellville at 6:54, and eventually after that, pretty much out of the area there. I do want to say, give some props to our folks, our partners up at Tennessee Valley Weather. part of the National Weather Network. They're covering this up there for the shoals. That's part of the reason you might say, well, why aren't you talking about this one up here, the northern part? Tennessee Valley Weather out of Lawrenceburg, Tennessee. What we're doing would not exist without them, and they do a spectacular job. So we let them kind of handle that area there. I think there'll be scenarios where we have some crossover, but they do a great job and have been keeping people safe up there for years. So I'm not gonna step on top of what they did. We were earlier pretty extensively tracking this storm down here when it was in Lowndes County. Had a little bit more in the way of rotation just a little bit ago when it was close to the Columbus area. That bit of rotation on the backside has largely fallen apart. This looks a lot more disorganized. So a very, very good sign as far as that is concerned there. I'd still say similar things back there toward Carrollton and everything back farther south toward around Macon. So things I'd say continue to trend in the right direction here. But this kind of big green line you see right here, there's this rainfall you see here. This is our cold front and much, much cooler temperatures coming in behind that there. So current time is 6:41. I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Lawpon. We're going to pull up of course, we have the national radar there for a moment. We're going to bring up those temperatures, and you can kind of see that drop sort of on there. If I make this one loop for, say, the last 6 hours, that drop becomes a little more obvious. Again, it's not an instantaneous giant drop. The coldest air is actually lagging a little bit behind that main front up there toward locations Missouri and Kansas, and that'll spill in. There's a lot of chilly air, but the coldest of that doesn't fully get focused down over top of us. Obviously, if you add in that or subtract because of that wind chill, that makes that look a lot worse, right? And you can see that sharper line. So this is the colder air moving in from the north and west, and so that's largely the story going forward into the next couple of days. So with that in mind, kind of wider shot here, and I think we might start the process. I'm gonna let Gabe do some tracking. I'm gonna check some stuff behind the scenes here for a moment. So Gabe, if you want to shift over to the chroma key, I don't know if you're able to control this without it completely stealing my system here on that. I'm going to go back to the virtual here for a moment so that you can kind of get ready over there at the chroma key if you so desire over there, and we'll try to kind of pop that up here in a second. But yeah, Gabe, these storms I feel like are largely kind of winding down a bit more. Would you agree?
I would, and praise God that they're doing so. But I do see a lot of folks in chat still saying that it is just gusty, it's windy. It's something that you definitely need to, what is the pirate terminology, batten down the hatches and get ready. So make sure to do so if you are anywhere on the Alabama state line of things, because if we expand things in, you can see that it's just going to be a little bit more gusty on the back end of this. And big reason why is because there's just a strong gradient as that colder air pushes back in behind it, some of those winds getting a little bit more breezy. So this leading edge is what we're watching for the potential of some of those stronger gusts. So I think this is worth drawing a line on to let folks know that it's headed their way. So give me a second while I draw this pretty extensive line out. Oh, hang on one second, not 200 miles an hour. All right, I'm gonna have to drag this out, so bear with me. There we go, all the way down. And this is again moving at about 40 miles an hour. And let me adjust this here real quick to go across a little bit longer of an area. We're going to go 100 miles. And then you get, of course, a lot of cities on there. Let me just clean that up real quick. There you're getting a better look. So Saltillo, basically over the top right now. My wife working on getting us a video there from the Maynor household of how those conditions are. But yeah, breezy conditions for sure. My mother-in-law letting me know over in Union County that her rockers were knocked off the porch. She actually went to the hall for a safe place, but yeah, no need to do that. This is not going to be a tornadic setup, just a little bit of those strong breezes on the back end of this. As we keep that moving, we see Tupelo there, 654, Verona, 657, Shannon, 702, Tishomingo, 703, Okolona, 706, Cherokee, 713, Belmont 719, Amory 732, and Tremont by about 737, Smithville right around that same time frame. So folks that are headed out and about thinking that first round is over, there's nothing else to worry about, it is still going to be breezy. So Matt, it's still definitely something to note. Are we here?
Sorry.
It's all good. Well, one of the things that it was showing over there was some outages. And I think that's a thing that we can expect to build into this overnight.
You want me to talk about some outages for a second?
Go ahead.
So technically we have a power outage at the house. Luckily we have a backup battery for the house and I have a backup battery for the room. But it's one of those things like you were talking about it and I'm like, and I'm looking down. All of a sudden, in the corner of my eye, I'm like, wait, it just went dark in the other room over there. So I had Penny run and plug in. I have an extension cord for my backup battery. It's in here. So now we're on the backup battery for the house on top of everything else. But it was one of those, like, I heard a click. I'm like, wait a second, that means power's out. So let me also say that means even in a power outage, the broadcasting works like this. I was hoping that we could test the whole decentralized way of doing this, because one of the many levels of redundancy that we're trying to kind of develop here at Mississippi Live Weather is, if I go out at my house, Gabe can work at the station. Or if the station goes down, I can still broadcast from here to the channel, even if everything gets cut there. So part of, I guess, making it more stable is decentralizing it, because if the two of us go down, then Maggie can still pull it up from back there and broadcast directly to the channel. So we have multiple ways to ensure that we're in good shape.
Well, I think that this is a great segue to kind of pull up some of those outages, because that is a number that I do expect to continue to climb into those overnight hours. Jordan put it best in the chat. He said, dude, I went outside to get a snack from my car and got whiplash from how gusty things are. So great way to describe it. And let me tell you,
that front definitely is, I mean, it's got, the thing about this front is it's mixing down winds from aloft. So you have really strong winds aloft, and it's mixing that down to the surface.
Yeah, and it's not impressive on radar. I mean, if you look at this, you would think that that is just nothing but some light to moderate, maybe heavy showers at times. But it's actually the wind mode that we see the best look at this. And as we look at some of those winds on that leading edge, I don't even think this is going to do it justice, because, again, at the surface is more breezy than what's happening aloft. And as we highlight in a few of those numbers, yeah, it's not only 30 or 40 miles an hour. I think we're getting up to 50 in some spots on that leading edge. That includes folks there in Winona submitting that same report, the northern side of this, where things have been relatively tame. So Tupelo, I'm sure we're going to get some breezes here in a second. Also up around the Prentiss County area in Boonville. And then, as we mentioned just a moment ago, Tishomingo going to be highlighted there as well. Now, Grenada, I mean, you can see that they are definitely the focal point. Nearly 12% of the area currently without power. But look at how many blues are starting to show up across North Mississippi. That's those power outages that are continuing to climb into our, now early evening hours of our Thursday. Still 100 around the Oxford area. Tracked that just a moment ago, but 400 in Tishomingo County. Should tell you how breezy those conditions are. Union County as well as Prentiss County reporting a few of those outages. And that, I do expect Lee County to unfortunately be added to that list as well. So, Matt.
There's always a lag on this, unfortunately.
Well, and you're at least one. You're at least 1% there in Lee County. So accounting
I'll
for
let
that.
you go over the monitor and check out some of those for folks at home. I'll go ahead and take you over there, and I'll bring it back here to check out some of those power outages. Pull up Tom Bigby's outage map over there, and we'll look at that in a second.
Sounds
so
good.
Again, current time is 6:48. I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Lawpon alongside our meteorologist Gabe Maynard back in the studio. I also think this Grenada number is going to go out, because when we were looking at this a minute ago, it wasn't 12% and it was a higher number. So I think that even on that's a slower updating map here, that's going to go up a little bit more here in the next few minutes. So a decent number of power outages out there because of this front moving into and through the area. Also did get a report a couple minutes ago of a tree blocking the road on County Road 642 in Dumas as this line came through the area. So did get, that report. Also newly minted here in the last couple of moments, I do think worth bringing up as we bring this back over here to Mississippi Live Weather Radar. We have seen the cancellation of a couple of counties. Boom. You saw them right there in blue from Monroe and Itawamba counties. Those now canceled out of the Mississippi or canceled out from the tornado watch out there at this time. We do have a number of power outages kind of picking up in number there. Here we go. Large tree down, blocked the highway, was it 3678, Highway 178 in Lee County. Occurred around 57 after, I guess that'd be 5:57 or so. So yeah, at least some trees being reported down related to these storms today. I can't say that that's particularly shocking. I think that's kind of what we expect.
Hey, Matt, real quick, I can take a step outside and go live and show that leading edge of wind. It's like right over the studio right now.
I'll be looking for you.
All right.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Of course, I'll brave the storm.
I appreciate that. Okay, I'm looking behind the scenes here at our weather pictures, seeing if we have any additional weather pictures, and appreciate everyone for sharing your photographs with us here on Mississippi Live. Again, not a ton of reports coming in at this point here, but I might have to log back into my app. Sometimes it makes me log in multiple times here in order to do that. Content, there we go, 24 hours. Yeah, I'm gonna have to log out and log back in. That's fun. Well, lots of little things we get to learn as part of this. Heaviest of the storms. The interesting thing is this is one of the heaviest that you've had out there in Marion County, Alabama, and Bexar there kind of moving through. But even then, that's largely, again, below severe limits. We'll get a storm track on that moving eastward at right around 40 miles per hour. And I'm going to double check that front here in a second because I think that front's moving a little quicker than that. Again, looking at that, Pig Eye, we show 657 there. Hamilton, 707. Bear Creek, 718. Martintown, 727. And about 730 there for South Haleyville. But our meteorologist, Gabe Maynard, is watching this line coming through Tupelo. And before he gets wet, we need to see Gabe. So let's go ahead and I got to make sure I find the right one of these boxes for you, Gabe, in your live shot. In fact, we're just going to take Gabe's shot here for a moment as he's out in the wind.
Yeah, Matt, I think breezy's an understatement as you see the earpiece get knocked out of my ear. Great timing. But yeah, definitely some gusty gradient winds working their way into the area, blowing the hair around, blowing leaves there in the roadways. If you see that flag back there behind me, I mean, you can see Old Glory showing off there, breezy in the wind. It is just a gusty forecast along this leading edge. I would say, yeah, 30, 35, maybe even 40 miles an hour in some spots, and those gusts even higher. So it's probably knocked around, blown around. So you are in advance of this line. I would go ahead and get everything together that you need to. Even, I don't know if you...
Oh, let's see if
just
this...
Oh, is the video going down?
Yeah, well, I bet you're on Wi-Fi is what's happening. I'll bet you're on the Wi-Fi there, which is going to take it in and out. You're back now. So if you stay steady, fairly steady, I think you're there on the Wi-Fi for the building.
Okay, well, there goes the good hair day I thought I was having. As you can see, getting the windswept look. But yeah, it's just breezy conditions along that leading edge. And gusts definitely get up to about 40 miles an hour just because of how strong those winds are. You can see the American flag back there behind me. That's breezy in the wind. And that's some of those winds that are a little bit higher up. So no surprise why that's showing a little bit more evident than here on the ground. But I do want to note that some leaves in the background were blowing across the road. And this is in advance of a lot of that rainfall. So this paired with some rain makes for some blinding conditions. We do encourage folks to stay off the roads for the next at least hour as this moves on through to accommodate for some of those extreme driving conditions that we don't want you guys to be in. So stay safe, get where you need to go, and stay there until this main line moves out of the area.
Okay, that's our meteorologist, Gabe Maynard. Get inside before it goes from windy to wet. Sound good?
Will do. Will do.
Okay, as you can see down at our studios in downtown Tupelo, always a good idea to thank the good folks at the CDF in Tupelo for helping us here get started on Mississippi Live Weather and putting us up down there at the Renaissance Center for Ideas across from the Cadence Bank Arena. Current time is 6:54 actually. I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Lompon. You're watching Mississippi Live Weather. We have a front that's coming through that's honestly doing most of the issues that we have, and it's just kind of this wall of green here. No tornado potential out of any of this. This is just that front and the wind associated with it. It's largely non-severe, but nonetheless, still some gusty winds possible, and that's what's been doing the most effective job of producing some power outages. And when we look at those power outages, let me click off the watches out there into Alabama. But what we show as of now, 1, 2, let's do the count here. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19-ish counties there with power outages in our area at this point. So a lot of those have come from the front, and when they're just very precise, they do a pretty effective job of causing some outages there. I think Gabe's back in the studio now, and he's been doing a good job of kind of bringing those power outages into play and showing off kind of what things look like with that. Gabe, what you got on those?
Well, Matt, you can definitely see the large amount of outages, and after being out there, I'm not surprised at all at the number of outages here in Lee County. You can see the larger number, that's about 597 outages, including Matt's house in that group. Matt, I'm curious if your power has come back on just yet. Saltillo showing a couple outages as well. If we move our way up there and highlight those, about 52, and then over there, do what?
It has not come back on.
Okay, well, the Maynard household, it went out for a brief moment, but I think it has come back. At least that's the report from my beautiful bride. 43 outages there in Union County combined. It's really about 92, I would say, between those two cross sections. So it's as this line builds on through. I mean, let me update it. This could be an updated number. Yeah, more outages reported on the east side. Basically, where the studio is here in downtown Tupelo, or not too far from it, 67 outages with that number climbing. So Itawamba County, it's on your way to you, so make sure to get where you need to be, charge those phones in advance, and hopefully it doesn't take the power cooperatives there at Tom Bigby too long. They do a great job whenever severe weather does strike to make sure people are back up and running, so I know they're already out and about trying to fix some of these outages. But those breezy conditions, no joke, and we do expect that those will continue to climb as we get into those overnight hours. I wanted to check poweroutage.us just to make sure that we're not missing anything, but this does update a little bit later, so that's why Lee County doesn't have any outages. If you look at the Tom Bigby map, of course, showing those outages a little bit more detail. So I'm going to continue behind the scenes tracking a few of those outages and updating you on those totals. But as you can see, we thought the main batch was the first round. The back end has been the more impactful one with outages.
Well, I mean, no, I'll say this. The first round was the only one that would possibly produce tornadoes.
Yes.
You never put it past the front this year to mix down strong gradient winds, which is what this is, pressure gradient winds being, mixed down, or stronger winds aloft being mixed down by just the storms themselves. That happens from time to time there. Check Entergy and the website on Entergy, and I'll come back to you here in a minute. I'll look for you to kind of wave me on that, hopefully there. But
Will do.
Yeah, I'll let you pull that up here in just a second, and we'll talk more about some of those power outages. All right?
Sweet. Sounds like a plan.
Okay, that's our meteorologist Gabe Maynard there again behind the scenes, continuing to kind of assess the power outage situation. I think now is probably time, though, we need to talk about, sometimes people watch us, many times people watch us just because of the tornado potential, right? And so I'm just going to draw on here like this, right? There could still be some power outages from this line as it moves through. But everywhere we put that there, this is, maybe it's too early for you, but maybe you need permission. Go to sleep. Oh, you know what makes my daughter run out of the room during severe weather coverage? When I say the words go to sleep, right? You had to cough. Okay, so you ready to go to bed?
No, I'm not ready to go to bed.
That's what I thought.
It's like 7 o'clock.
Anyway.
You said so yourself.
It is. It's a little early. But go to sleep. Or you don't need to necessarily stick on with us. We appreciate your support. Thank you for watching us here in Mississippi Live Weather. But I would say for everybody out here into the west of this and in this kind of red zone that we're kind of tagging here, when go to sleep, the tornado severe weather threat is a non-issue for you going forward. There still will be some power outages from time to time, but we're going to be sporadic on some wind damage reports, and you can see that does correlate well. Everywhere in blue is that tornado watch that does continue at their Tuscaloosa locations to the east. Speaking of that, let's look down there south of Macon, and again, the storm reports do continue to come in. We're monitoring kind of both of those things at this time here. Apologize, man, I got like 7 computers up here and I can't get Alt Tab on the right one. There we are. There's my stuff with the folks at the National Weather Service, just double checking our chat with them, and Memphis canceling out their counties earlier. There is a new mezzo, and Gabe, I'll have you look at that mezzo here in a second. Actually, let's go to you for power outages. I'll look at the mezzo, and then we'll talk about that when we come back. So bring in our meteorologist, Gabe Maynard, kind of an update on Entergy's outages. I see some decent sections there that's probably related to some of those power outages in Grenada, right?
Exactly. You can see that there is a large number of outages. Currently, 869 folks currently without power. That is going to be east of Grenada, close to the Gore Springs area, with a few other outages. If we work our way up Highway 8, that are currently 2 outages affecting 73 customers. So Entergy doing a great job getting out and about this evening, trying to get folks that are without power restored. And again, a big thank you to our electric power cooperatives just taking care of business tonight. We don't like forecasting whenever there's some strong or inclement weather possible, but they do a great job kind of making things go back to normal as quickly as possible. So Gore Springs, that's going to encompass a large section of Highway 8 and some of those back roads as well. So if you do have anyone over there or know of anyone over there, they're probably currently without power. So the thing with losing power, I will say, the quicker the better, because tonight, cold forecast does move back in place right around freezing. So if it does take a little bit for power to come back on, we need to make sure that we have ways to stay warm, whether that's with a heater or with multiple blankets. I mean, both of which should do the job tonight. But Matt, we're hopeful that it all gets addressed here in the next few hours and folks don't have to go into those cold conditions without power.
Absolutely. You might need to bundle up like the mid-size lop on there. By the way, I did not mean to out you on TV in your Baby Yoda pajamas. I was just worried about my next thing. I didn't realize you were even dancing back there. So I don't know if I'm good dad or bad dad on that one. I do know that good sponsor this evening, Mitchell Cunningham Bowling, helping us with our Tupelo Tower Cam, bouncing around a little bit more. Still waiting on the latest update at the airport there coming in. We show kind of a west at 9 miles per hour. That temperature is going to drop a lot more the next hour once the new update comes in here in a couple of moments. Some viewers reporting some tree branches down between Tillatoba and Grenada on Highway 51 from the North Mississippi Storm Chasers. James also commenting that he doesn't want to go to sleep. The night is young. I'm telling you, you get to a certain age. I had men's group at 6 a.m. this morning, 6:30 a.m. I'm tired enough I could do it. But Madison saying she's not ready yet. Windy in Tishmingo, extremely windy reported there. Windy in Baldwin from Michael. And Stephen asking if the tornado threat is over. And as we said kind of before we tossed the Gabe a minute ago there, the tornado threat, while not completely over, is for many locations. If you're outside of these blue counties, and we'll kind of dial it back to where it's just the blue counties here for just a moment. If you are anywhere kind of back here, the tornado threat is over. If you're anyway in front, it is not particularly high, but it is not zero. To that point, we'll bring up the discussion that I was looking at here behind the scenes from the Storm Prediction Center in Norman, Oklahoma. Talking about the fact that the limited tornado threat still there, wind gusts still should persist for the next couple of hours with broken bands of thunderstorms, and that the earlier supercells, the rotating thunderstorms, are largely falling apart and less of an issue with the exception of Newton County. So we'll have to watch the primary tornado threat around here, but with everything becoming less of an issue, that tornado threat diminishes as well going into the evening. So good sign there. The progression is less and less significant tornado threat going into the next couple of hours here. Still going to be windy, and as this front moves through, definitely expecting breezy conditions to follow suit associated with that. Number of pictures coming in this evening as well. A lot of them lightning. This one from near Toyota Bokashu. Appreciate, I think, Lulu for sending this one in. I'll see if I can make this actually pop on your screen the right way. So give me just a moment to populate that in here. Nope, not going to do it. Not going to be happy. Let's try that. Still, we got that. One more time here. The more gizmos you have, the more likely it is for one to break. Okay, give me a second to try to do this here. Window capture. I don't know why it's not on there like it's supposed to. Oh, well. Well, that would have been nice. Not showing up on there. So I'll bring it back here to regular radar for a moment. Might have to do just a good screen capture to pull that up there. Hi, Penny, you're back on camera again. You realize that, right? Okay, well, we're still technically doing severe weather coverage, so now might not be the time, okay? Because only in the Law Pond household do green blankets run around enough that you can show up on TV with them there. Man, let's get things back on track. Let's get back here to Gabe for a second, who's doing his actual job behind the scenes there, trying to pull up some of those weather pictures. Gabe, what do you have?
Well, so I was getting in contact with our Clarksdale picture submitter. That's Christina over there in Clarksdale, talking about that interesting looking picture. And I was asking if she had any reports of damage or anything of that nature to confirm anything that happened on the ground. And she was there whenever the whole thing went down. She took the picture of it. So I was asking her kind of what she saw in the sky and getting any confirmation that we may have. She did tell me that it was a pretty fiery sunset after it happened, but now she's driving back, now that everything has passed, to see what damage has occurred, if any, and we will be glad to forward that to you guys as well as the National Weather Service here in the next few moments. But I think that's definitely one of the more interesting pictures of the night is out of Clarksdale, but it's just not exactly lining up with what we have seen on radar so far. It is kind of in an area where we don't have the best radar imagery, so we're looking very high up for what's actually happening on the surface. So I'm not saying it's an impossibility, but just not very likely with how things were lining up in the atmosphere. Now, I want to bring it back here to power outages because that is a good way to tell, what has happened and what has taken place. And as you can see, Tom Bigby, active night ahead as you get several of those outages that are continuing to populate into those overnight hours. And what did I tell you? Itawamba County, watch out because it is headed your way and already getting those outages confirmed. 166 there across the county line, moving just outside of Moorville and then closer to the Fulton area. So paying attention to folks in Fulton as you guys are not too far away from this line of showers and storms working their way on through. But definitely some areas that stand out is the 596 outages just north of the Tupelo area, Saltillo 63, east side of Tupelo 67, even down south closer to Verona about 111 outages so far. So this is a number that continues to climb. Unfortunately, Tom Bigby going to be stationed in both Lee County and Itawamba County over the next several hours trying to restore that ahead of a chilly night tonight. But we're just again, grateful for all the hard workers this evening that are wanting to keep people safe and keep them warm, especially in these conditions. I want to refresh the Entergy page real quick so we can walk through a bit more on that. Give me a second to pick the right area. So as that populates in, you can see some outages showing up around Greenwood. We mentioned Grenada a moment ago. Not going to be shocked at all if we get a few of those reports down there around Durant and Kosciuszko as that line progresses on through. But fortunately, not nearly as many reports. So it seems like the stronger winds are going to be on the north half of this line. I do need to get, actually, I think it might be submitted. So bear with me behind the scenes here real quick. I'm going to swap it over and I'm going to try and pull up this video that was submitted by Annalise, Miss Maynor, as she was at home earlier this evening and took a video of some of those breezy conditions. Let me make sure that it's up. Yeah, there we go. And let me make sure that it is looping. Okay, let me adjust this here real quick and I'll get it back up behind the scenes. So here we go, bringing it back in here to a view. It's going to be hard to tell, but I do want to note that it is night, so you can't really see it. But look at all that debris, and debris being leaves and things like that are just blowing into the camera. You do have that blinding rainfall as well. Now, rainfall not a heavy contributor in this line, but when you pair that with some gusty winds, can be blinding. So if anyone is out and about this evening as you travel across Lee County or even working our way down that line with some more of those gustier conditions down there around Chickasaw, down at Monroe, I mean, it's not an impossibility as that works closer to the Alabama state line. This is really what you can expect. And yeah, definitely don't want folks out in it if they don't have to be, because even these leaves work their way into the area. That being said, I think we have another view out of one of our weather watchers out in the field. Let me find my mouse here real quick and pull that up. Gotta love old Facebook, right? So this is a look at some of those gustier conditions. Again, hard to tell being that it is night, but you can see that just basically that blink of flashing light as that rainfall and those leaves kind of work their way across the camera. So yeah, folks out there need to take it easy, stay safe, let this line pass on through. All those gradient winds that are transferring that colder air off towards the surface, that's what we're watching into those overnight hours is a significant cool down. Not going to last long, but a significant cool down for at least the next 24 hours before some warmer conditions push back in this weekend. And I know that's what Matt's looking at a little bit more behind the scenes is that forecast heading into this weekend. Football matchups. I was watching Matt do it behind the scenes, talking about the Oklahoma-Alabama forecast. And you know how New Orleans is called the Big Easy? Well, I think we should call Norman, Oklahoma the Big Breezy because of how breezy those conditions will be. Hey, you guys, 710, we've been doing coverage for about 3 hours now. This is what you get. So bringing it back in here to, let me get back off of Facebook real quick and move back over to some of our reports out there in the field. Actually, let me make sure picture-wise. I think we might have one. Oh, that's a good shot by Elena, bringing it back in here. That, I believe, is at the Toyota plant. Matt, I think you showed this one. Thinking back, but
I tried showing it. Toyota Bokashu is the name of it. Toyota Bokashu.
Okay, sweet. And that's in Lee County, right?
Itawamba, I think.
Itawamba. Okay. So, I mean, you get a clear as day lightning bolt reaching all the way to the surface. So that's one of the we call cloud to ground lightning. Not really going to be a cloud to cloud producer. This is really going to be reaching the ground a good bit, but luckily lightning strike's not going to be as numerous as events in the past that we'd usually associate with a high energy environment, as Matt was talking about earlier, an energetic environment. But with those lightning strikes that do happen, being that a lot of them are making their way to the surface, it's no surprise at all that we're getting this many outages as we update a few of those. My word, Tishomingo County, 2,500 outages currently, and that is going to be Tishomingo County Electric Power Association. I'm going to work to show that behind the scenes here in just a moment. Prentiss County, around 180 outages. Lee County, 867, as we saw a moment ago. And Itawamba County, starting to climb, already at 17. Expect that number to get a little bit higher in the next few hours. Union County, 179. I do want to say, folks, in Neshoba County, down to 26, so already showing some of those dents being made on those power outages. And Tate County, not nearly as much, 376 outages. Tallahatchie, 237. Grenada still showing 1,400. And again, that's going to be by the Gore Springs area. So if you are over there, they are working to get that addressed and get that fixed there with the folks at Entergy. Yalobusha County, that's a new development. Let me jump over there real quick and talk the latest on those outages. That's going to be working our way north, and yes, I will click that. Working our way north there from Grenada and up there towards the Yalobusha County area. So that's just a few outages. I believe it's this one over here that's actually populating in a few of those totals. So let me drag that over. And it's going to be Glendora showing, well, that's from earlier on, a few outages. I think that was from Tallahatchie now that I think about it. And that's down to 235 outages, still that same general location showing that. And as we work our way north, this is going to be that Yalobusha County area, trying to highlight in a few of those. Doesn't seem like an absurd amount, just a couple outages here and there. But that's as that line worked its way on through. Those breezy conditions, and again, the ground is very wet at this point, so it doesn't take much to knock down a few of those power lines, and one power line can be attached to 100 different houses. So that's why one outage can affect a multitude of people, and we want folks to stay safe. That's why we've been saying charge those devices as this has worked its way on through, and we'll continue to take a look at that as we head into those overnight hours. Now, where we sit currently, Matt, of course, you're taking a look at this, but we do see, I saw a head show up. Okay, I thought I was insane for a second.
I want to be clear, a little mid-sized law pond. If this were true tornado warning stuff, that this is not acceptable, okay? It's fine-ish right now, though some people do have damage. But let's just be clear. We got to take it a little more seriously during tornado warnings, okay? I love you, but I just want to make sure we've had that conversation, okay? Okay. Hey, who knows? Maybe we'll be lucky enough. She'll be running this ship into the ground someday.
We'll take another long one up here.
No, that's a no. Yeah, she says that now. We'll see.
Then we got to convince Leo.
Huh?
And then we got to convince Leo.
Nah, he'll be fine.
Well,
They'll both be fine.
Well, speaking of being fine, I think that we'll be pretty fine heading into this evening, aside from those gusty winds on the second line. But yeah, I think it's definitely something that we're very grateful for. We're definitely on the positive end of things, and that this didn't turn out for the worst. A lot of those storms did have some turning in the environment, so we're grateful that nothing ever produced, or at least not confirmed as of now. But I do want to say
highly unlikely you had
Yes.
something.
Yes, I agree. And I'm still getting some reports. Let me see. I'm going to look behind the scenes here real quick at some of her reports and see if she has any damage over there in Clarksdale.
Okay. So as we kind of look at here for a moment at a few things, one of the things, again, we're looking at those power outages, still monitoring those on Mississippi Live Weather Radar, showing about 12% there of both Tishmingo and Grenada counties without power at this time. Obviously, that yields different people. That's up to 2,500 folks up there in Tishmingo County. One of the heftier numbers around the region. Of course, what we have down here for Columbus and Macon, that is not power outages there. Instead, that is just the tornado watch that remains in effect for some of those locations. So I'll say I think the primary tornado threat is past for you. That's part of the reason why we're not really talking as much about that there. And I'm just checking here. Someone mentioned hail. Randy saying some hail there near Tiplerville. That'd really be kind of pushing it. Maybe it's ice pellets or so. Not an impossibility there. But I mean, even this, like right here along the leading edge of this should be relatively weak for any kind of rotation. It's just the gusty wind being pushed down from aloft with this line as it moves through with essentially what's a cold front moving in from the north and west. That's part of the reason we kind of keep coming back to that base velocity on this. It just shows kind of the wall of wind angle of this a little bit better. We are continuing, again, no power there reported for some spots in Chickasaw County as well. So yeah, unfortunately, those reports of power outages do kind of continue to come in, which I can't say is too terribly shocking. Go ahead and close this here for a moment. Yeah, here at the Law Pond House, another one of those spots where there is no power. We have a backup power because we have solar and a backup battery that goes along with that here at the house. It's part of the reason I feel comfortable broadcasting from home. Because one of the things I didn't know until I was in the process of building Mississippi Live Weather, I didn't realize that apparently if you've got fiber, you still have internet if you can power that router, right? So when we're thinking of things to do to prep ourselves for severe weather coverage, you need to make sure you have like a little UPS or a little backup battery. If you have a backup battery that can keep your router, the thing that makes your internet go, and your little fiber connection to the outside, if you can keep that powered, at least on Tom Bigby, I think a lot of the fiber providers, you're still going to have internet even if the power goes out. So probably worth a little battery backup for that so that you can continue to have internet. Because, I mean, you could be sitting in the dark, but you could still be watching us and getting information there. So one of the cool advances that comes with fiber optic, I thought when the power went off, because they were our power provider, that, you know, we'd lose fiber as well. Nope, apparently keeps going. So that's the beauty of fiber. So just one of those modern day advances that that we found out, and maybe everybody already knew, and I just was late to the game on that one. Current time is now, we're at 7:18. I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Lawpon. You're watching Mississippi Live Weather. I think we're going to be shutting this down here fairly soon, but you can see that we still do have out here one heavier thunderstorm down southeast of Macon, kind of moving toward the east. Speed on this around 35 to 40 miles per hour. This is below severe limits. When we look at the wind here, we don't show a lot of changing rotation sort of with that. So again, largely kind of a positive in that regard, that things definitely could be a lot worse than they have been. And as we lose the heating of the day, any significant rotation becomes less and less of an issue there. But that heaviest part there, moving closer to Aliceville. Again, storms up here into Lamar County, Alabama. Heavy rainfall main impact with these. You know, out of everything we've looked at, we've spent almost zero time looking at how much rainfall accumulations we've gotten out of these. And 3-hour rainfall amounts, some decent stripes there. Everything pretty much less than 2 inches. I don't see any spots. Well, there we do. Up here around Fulton, we got one spot where we show maybe in excess of 2 inches of rainfall on this 3-hour kind of what we call dual pole rainfall accumulation. There are a couple different ways in which we can assess the rainfall accumulation. So I'm going to check a few of those here for just a moment. This 1 hour rainfall, this tends to way underdo it. There we go. And then this tends to be a little bit overdone from time to time. But yeah, some decent rainfall out of this in some spots there. Well, it looks like the power's come back on. So at least at the Law Pond House there, the power's come back on. So expect no more Penny appearances because now she'll have power to do whatever it is she wants to do with her life, and I won't be the most entertaining thing going on. Gabe also watching things again behind the scenes here as I bring it in there to the room weather center. Yeah, I can see the rainfall behind you there. Any information coming in as of around 6:20?
Well, I did get confirmation of some damage over there in Clarksdale by Christina, and that was basically that it was over at Walmart. A few baskets were knocked over, and one of the bins was knocked over as well. While the picture definitely looked menacing, again, that's just further confirmation that we don't believe a tornado touched down over there in Clarksdale. So it's pretty much the confirmation that we needed. She is going to go back in the morning and take a better look over there. So we don't expect anything else, again, because it didn't really line up with what we were seeing on radar. We don't really expect a tornado to be produced out of what exactly was lining up on radar. But a big thank you to Christina for submitting that photo, and a big thank you to all of you guys that are submitting photos so far this evening. Again, if you do have any pictures or any videos of those breezy conditions, submit those through the Mississippi Live Weather app, or go ahead and comment those on our social medias, whether that's meteorologist Gabe Maynor or Matt Lopon there on Facebook. We have a post going for any of those submissions, and that includes power outages as well. So folks doing a great job keeping us informed, and we, of course, relay that information to the National Weather Service so that way they can better issue this through the night. But yeah, power outages. That's the big story from here on out.
Yep, we've reached that point, and that's a good thing when we've reached kind of this point of the evening that, you know, power outages are concerned and not something more significant than that. Talk about those power outages. Again, the numbers do continue to kind of increase on those for some spots as this front moves through the area. That's where we're kind of seeing more and more of those kind of coming in here. And you're reporting those in a big way on all of our different social media. On YouTube, we have James talking about power flickering in Bigby there. Joey got an alert for hail in Hamilton, Alabama. Joey, let me know if you actually got a little bit of hail on that. There's some advance warning on that from time to time is and is not, perfectly accurate. It's kind of an advanced warning. Here's the thing about it. The more advanced the warning gets, the more likely it is to be a little bit off. So I'd like to know how that ends up working out for you there. I appreciate you, Brittany. Love the app. Appreciate y'all for supporting us here. On YouTube, power out in the Joyner area. Trees down close to Hills Chapel, reported by Madison there on Facebook. Real windy in Phoebe. Appreciate that, Nash. Power out, still out in Iuka. Shadow Monkey. Hello there on the YouTubes. Replying to Holly. Their power looks like they came back on. And then Weston, Alabama is out in Hamilton. Appreciate that. Chickasaw County, Haley with some bouts of power as well. So yeah, looks like folks dealing primarily with power outages. I have not seen a lot of reports of wind damage in our chat, at least with the viewers at home at this point. Did get a report of a tree down on County Road 363. Looks like it's on top of a vehicle going toward between Saltillo and the Unity area. Gabe, I don't know if you can pull that one up from the chat with the North Mississippi Storm Chasers and try to get that one on there. I'll look to see if you can get that one up here in a minute and going. Looking behind the scenes here at a time lapse from one of the cameras with the North Mississippi Storm Chasers. I'd like to figure out which one that was. That Amory looking north? That's a picture from Amory looking north. I'll have to figure out which time lapse that was. Where was this? Question mark. We'll see if we can get that one up and going here in a minute. Here is that weather picture. I'm going to see behind the scenes. You've got that picture up, so I'm going to send it over to meteorologist Gabe Maynor, who has a legitimate tree damage and looks like tree on a car. And man, that's always a scary situation. I don't know if it's on a car or if the car just hit it.
Yeah, potentially either way. It doesn't look like, if I were to draw it out, looks like it might just be ahead of that front tire. So we're hopeful. I mean, we're not hopeful that any damage took place, but if it were to be one or the other, that it was driving into it, because that's less likely to do significant damage, especially to the cab. But it does look like at least the driver was able to get out and get away from the car. But still just a devastating sight. We don't want any damage to occur. That's why we say stay off those roadways. Blinding rainfall does not do anyone any favors, especially with visibility on the road. So if you're heading out and about this evening, you never know when there's going to be a tree in the middle of the road potentially. I remember over at the old place, I was driving home from work one day, and I went over a hill, and as I went over the hill, tree laid out right across the road, and it caught me so off guard. I slammed on my brakes. Luckily, just missed it, I was paying good attention, and I still almost hit a tree. So that was over on Highway 363 near County Road 1970. So hopefully getting that cleared pretty soon. But yeah, you can see a pretty decent tree. It looks like a pine tree that might have fallen over there in the Lee County area. So Matt, we're grateful that it looks like everyone came out of it okay, but still just not a sight we want to see whenever we're talking about damage after the storms. And
oops, sorry, meant to hit double box. Go ahead.
Oh, it's all good. Trying to see more from behind the scenes. I know you mentioned the 30 near Highway 178 in Lee County that there was a large tree that was down, a tree down blocking County Road 742 in Dumas. But it's just really trees down, and that's just across the road. As long as there's not cars that are into it or underneath it, I think that's, again, best case scenario in the grand scheme of things with these gusty conditions.
Absolutely. I'm going to give it to you for just 2 seconds. I'm going to see if I can zoom that picture in. So I'm going to give it to you. I'll be right back.
Okay. Well, let me see if we can do an update on some power outages real quick. So as we take a look right here, one of the things that I was able to pull up was Tishomingo County Electric Power Association. As you can see, those outages, numerous. I mean, I'm going to zoom it out, and you can see that there's 866 just focused in this one polygon right here, just north of Velmont, a little bit east there of Tishomingo. Iuka, they're close to Bay Springs Lake, about 800 outages as well. Let's bring it on in right here. And as you can see, some of those outages, actually, I don't think it's on there. I'm going to drag it over here, and you can see it a little bit more in detail, that some of those outages have been out for nearly an hour. That one that's confirmed with 311, if I back it back out and put it back in towards Tishomingo, that's right in downtown Tishomingo, and that is the 311 outages that have been out for 1 hour and 17 minutes. So they are assessing the situation. They are trying to get it fixed, and same thing with the 782 outages that we just saw a moment ago. They're trying to get all this fixed, but as you can see, very much an uphill battle for Tishomingo County Electric Power Association. But a big thank you to all the linemen that are out and about right now, trying to get everyone back in order and back having power. It's just a tough job whenever there's a lot of outages like this. And so we're grateful for anyone that is out and about this evening. Lee County doing an updated look at that Tom Bigby outage map. And as you can see,
I was going to say Itawamba County, actually.
Itawamba County finally
being
added to that list.
Like, yeah, like they got Northley on, then Southley's got some issues now. Southeast and then Southwest Itawamba.
Yeah, exactly. So it's 464 outages there on the southeast side of the area, just north of Nettleton, I believe. And that is also going to be impacting folks that are going up Highway MS 76 up there on the northeast side of Itawamba County, 119 outages. So power outages continue to come in, and we do expect that to increase. I'm going to take a look at Monroe County here in just a moment behind the scenes, Matt, and we can take a look at that to see if there's any outages to report.
Okay, I appreciate that. That's our meteorologist, Gabe Maynor. Here is that picture again along 363. I was trying to get to where I could pull it up behind the scenes here at the house, and we can kind of look a little closer at it, and I could zoom it in. So give me a moment to pull that up for you here. And this from the North Mississippi. Oh, man. You know, you might remember from the TV station, I fought Apple TV and these iPads. If somebody's got a suggestion on how to make these things behave, no, I'm not going to Android. You know, I'd appreciate it. But I want to zoom in really close here. One thing I notice is it's just that right there, whatever that is in front, I don't know if that's the bumper peeled back or what. That's the one thing that makes me wonder if the tree actually did come down and end up hitting the car as well. But the fact it kind of skid sideways like that, unless it was trying to get out of the way, hard to say. But either way, that's always a really scary situation for that. North Mississippi Storm Chasers also had a nice time lapse here from near the Houston area. I believe this is probably a drone time lapse. Adrian with the North Mississippi Storm Chasers showing this as that went through the area then a little bit earlier on, that one of those rotating storms. I'll try to get to this side here. As you can see, there was a little bit of rotation with that, and appreciate him for sending up that drone shot a little bit ago. Kind of a cool shot as that came through, and luckily nothing that was much worse than that. Bringing it back over here to regular Mississippi Live weather radar. And again, we're largely in power outage mode at this point here. Grenada County, we're down to 600. Lee County still shows 800 and 3,000 up there for Tishomingo County. So yeah, some of our bigger problem spots around the area as far as power outages are concerned. And the latest here on Mississippi Live weather radar continuing to again kind of show that line moving eastward. And it is this front in particular that is kind of the biggest focal point for some of what we have going on out there. So the front, I'll draw it on there for you. This is our cold front that kind of sits right about there-ish. Not the prettiest cold front I could draw, but you get the point. Everything behind this here, we are in good shape. So everything back here, one of these days I'll find a more elegant way to do this, but I just like doing it this way. So I do it. Everything back here, despite what Penny Lawpon says, is go. You can't read that. Anyway, everything back here is going to be go to sleep, right? Big X, you're done. In front, even then, we're only kind of watching the storm around Aliceville. That's the only one in the area that could do anything. But the front itself clearly is doing something and producing the wind damage. Almost all of our wind damage has come from the front itself, not necessarily from the line or any pop-up storms in advance. It's just a reminder, sometimes it's the least interesting thing that has the biggest impact. And so that's kind of where we're at with this for today. Okay, so I'm going to check with Gabe again here. Looks like he is continuing to look on social media on everything that we have there. Any pictures, anything like that?
Just updating folks on the tree on top of the car. That was reported by, I believe, I might say it incorrectly, but that is by Karaya. She sent it in as well, and I'm probably saying it wrong. I apologize, but she said tree on top of vehicle. So that tells me pretty much what you were thinking about with that tree actually falling on top of the vehicle. But now we're just fortunate that it wasn't on the cab and that they were able to walk away from the scene okay. And that's really what matters at the end of the day, whether it's on top or in front of. We were able to walk out of the car and still in one piece. So we're grateful for that. Grateful that we have not heard of any fatalities or injuries. That's really whenever we go into these severe weather risk days, we want to come out with everyone still in one piece. There could be some of our home items that get destroyed or trees falling down or things of that nature. But as long as everyone in the community is still intact, then that's what matters. And I'm very grateful that we can say that so far tonight, and we expect that to continue even into those overnight hours as the worst, I think, is officially back behind us. Now, I was looking at 4 County behind the scenes for any outages in Monroe County. Doesn't look like there's many. I do see a few out here towards the northern part. I believe that is northern part of Clay County, maybe the southern part of Chickasaw. Might be a little bit off on that. But about 61 outages reported just outside of McCondy. And then if we keep going down Highway 47 a little bit towards the east, about 16 outages, 12 near the Hurd area. That's close to, I think, close to Holka. If I have my, Holka Creek, I should say. So as we continue to look at that, that's some of the outages that are being reported by 4 County. And if we look further towards the southwest, you can definitely see a lot of those outages around the Reform, Mathiston, Maben area. Still getting a good amount of those coming in here to 4 County, of course, forwarding that here from Mississippi Live Weather. Now, if we look at the poweroutage.us map, we definitely get a good visual on some of those outages that continue to populate in. Unfortunately, still seeing a lot of white, but again, we do expect those numbers to start to climb, and Tishomingo County continues to be the busiest area, I should say, with those outages that are continuing to build in Tishomingo, Dennis, Belmont, even down around the Golden area and up there towards the Bay Springs Lake area. I know that folks just outside of Iuka going to be busy waiting on their power to be restored. So that continues to be around over 3,000 outages, and that number potentially on the climb still as we get into those overnight hours. This is a look at Entergy. And if we take a look at the grand scheme of things, of course, got to sign in here real quick. So bear with me. But if we bring it in here, you can see that still multiple outages being reported in Greenwood, down south as well around the Jackson area, getting a few outages, but it really remains Durant, Kosciuszko. And we just talked about this, how we expect some of those numbers to climb. And if you look at this, that's close to the Salis area, we have multiple outages. It's 2 outages that are affecting 29 customers. And what that tells you is that they just got to replace that one transformer, and then we're sitting in good shape and fixing nearly 30 outages. 50 customers affected just outside of the Goodman area. If we look north, that was north of Goodwin, northwest of Goodman, we can see about 36 customers being affected. Working our way up that line, if we keep around the Salis area, and this is going to be north of Highway 12, 9 customers affected. So these numbers just continue to populate in, and we do expect additional outages to be reported, whether that's from 4 County or anyone that is along the Alabama state line as that line progresses on through. I'm curious, I'm going to bring it back here to links real quick to kind of assess where things sit. So there's where that line currently sits from Louisville to Starkville to Aberdeen to Amory and now east of Itawamba County. But you saw what it did in Itawamba with power outages, nearly adding about 600 or 700. So as we work our way down that line, especially with those stronger sections there on the northeast side of Monroe County, I'm not going to be shocked at all if we get a few more of those outages to be reported. Down around Starkville, it is still slightly intense, but I'm not seeing any lightning produced out of that. So I think a lot of this is just going to be heavy rainfall. So I think that we are sitting in much better shape than what we were even about an hour ago. So as we take a look at that wind mode real quick, I'm going to change it over and put it on the wind mode, and still getting a few of those stronger gusts. I do see that one out around Louisville. Now this is a little bit more elevated, but if I get it exactly 27 miles an hour. Earlier on, we were tracking around 35 to 40 to 45 miles an hour. So trending a little bit more in the right direction as this is starting to decline in some of that strength. So we're hopeful that that continues to follow suit. Now, I do want to look real quick at, of course, that's going to be satellite imagery. Do we have that dew point? There we go. So if we look at dew point right now, still decent. I want to say that. Over there towards folks in the Choctaw, Octibaha, Clay, Monroe, Lowndes, Knoxville, and Winston, and even Itala County. If we look at a few of those dew points, and I'm just going to do basically one for each county real quick. So there's going to be a lot of numbers on screen. But this is that threshold we're watching. Still low to mid 60s in some spots. It's enough, but we call that sustainable moisture rather than it being that strengthening moisture that allowed for some of those storms to build. That was around 65 degrees earlier on this afternoon. That has started to recede just a bit as well, but some of those higher moisture values, that's going to be out around the Marion, Alabama, as well as Brent, and we're still talking 63 degrees or so south of Tuscaloosa around that same margin. So not going to be shocked at all if these storms maybe intensify a bit there towards southern Alabama, but how much is left at that point? That's really the golden question, but that's also out of North Mississippi. So that's out of our hair. We don't expect anything to strengthen out of this. We do expect, if there was anything, to be sustained with that instability that we do have. So Matt, I think we're sitting in much better condition. I do expect that, the worst of it is behind us and some of those power outages potentially increasing overnight. But even then, I think that the numerous outages that we've had so far, not going to be something that continues overnight as well. I think it's going to be more sporadic compared to what we've seen earlier on.
Okay, I agree that meteorologist Gabe Maynard there, as luckily things are hopefully winding down significantly for where we're at. And luckily this has not been a significant day by any stretch of the imagination, but anytime there's some power outages, it's annoying, and it just takes a while to get back from. But as Gabe was mentioning, drier air moving in back on the backside of this is the story. As colder air moves in and we transition ourselves more toward a drier pattern for the next few days here. So no severe thunderstorm warnings with the exception of far eastern Franklin County, Alabama. That's past really a part that we really truly cover here on Mississippi Live Weather. And with that in mind, I think we're going to go ahead and suspend coverage here as we're still kind of watching some things. As necessary, we can come back on if push really comes to shove on that, but I think we're largely doing pretty well. Our next live broadcast here is going to be coming up tonight at 10 o'clock here from the Room to Room Weather Center. Again, this was kind of a extended broadcast for a lot of folks over the last couple of hours. We're going to keep monitoring some of the power outage situations that we do have there. But again, severe weather, tornado type of weather, none of that going forward here. We only have a couple counties still under that tornado watch. We're still going to be monitoring things. If we need to cut in sooner, we will. But keep you here for the latest, and we appreciate y'all for supporting us here on Mississippi Live Weather. Before we go, last thing I will say is if you do not have weather call, It's certainly, I think, a worthwhile investment. It'll call you if you're in the danger zone for severe weather, let you know if a tornado is confirmed to occur for your location, call you back in that situation, and then give you calls for severe thunderstorm warnings as well as major flooding. It does come with a $15 a year cost. It's one way to directly support us here on Mississippi Live Weather, while at the exact same time keeping your family safe. It's what I've used for my family for 2 decades now to keep them safe when I was in Texas. And the entire time we've been here, my family in Kansas and Oklahoma, they also get weather calls when bad weather moves toward their locations. It does come with a cost, but like most things in life, it is the things that come with a cost tend to be worth it. And in this case, I don't think twice about ever having to call my wife. Even though now we don't work at the same location, I won't think twice about it going forward because I know Weather Call will take care of her and will take care of my family. Okay, we'll see you at 10 o'clock. Keep it here for the latest.
We're all just trying to keep things running for those who rely on us. That's why we don't have time to be sick with the flu.
We don't have time for delays.
We don't have time for spills.
Next. We don't have time for setbacks. Let's be real.
Getting the flu shot
helps you fight the flu.
Get a flu shot for yourself and those around you too.